right, good evening, everyone. We'll call ourselves to order. It is Tuesday, January 21st at 6:03 p.m. here in the AST School Board Boardroom. A regular business meeting of the Anchorage School District School Board. Present in the boardroom are members Bellamy, Higgins, Jacobs, Lessons, and Wilson. And online joining us is our President Holloman will serve as chair for this evening. Also joining us is our student representative, Joshua Pack. Dr. Bryant and his team called ourselves to order, and we're gonna through a roll call. We'll perform our flag salute. Mr. Pack, if you'd lead us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Peck, if you'd read us the land acknowledgement, please.
We acknowledge that we gather here today on the traditional lands of the Dena'ina people of the Upper Cook Inlet. For thousands of years, the Dena'ina people have been and continue to be the stewards of this land. ASD is committed to diversity and inclusion, and it is with honor and respect that we recognize all Indigenous people who live and learn in our community.
Thank you, Mr. Pack. And again, good evening, everyone. We want to welcome you to our meeting and thank you for attending and supporting the work of the Anchorage School District and this board. The board thanks students, parents, teachers, staff, school business partners, and the entire community for your investment in our district with your time, your talent, and your tax dollars. Said we've performed our opening. We have an agenda. Is there a motion to approve our agenda as presented?
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Made by member Bellamy, seconded by member Wilson. Is there any objection to adopting our agenda as presented? All right, seeing none, we have an agenda. Thank you, everyone. We'll move on to reports. B1 is our student representative report. Mr. Pack, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the majority of my report today is just a update on our last student advisory board meeting, which happened last Tuesday in this room. And we had an exceptional meeting. And in the theme of the new year, we asked our student delegates from across the district what resolutions they would come up and present with in our next SAB meeting if they wanted to. And this kind of just gave some insight into some priorities of our student leaders across the district. And here are some examples of what students brought up. Begich wanted to get to class on time, so they would make a resolution telling students to get into class faster. East, or Betty Davis East, was looking to enforce stricter rules about school attendance. Mears wanted to help fix the bathroom or bathrooms at their school. Apparently they have a lot of broken and not locking stalls, which problem. South is looking to mandate a anti-racism campaign at their school because of their apparently they had some notable encounters with or incidences of racism this school year. A lot of schools wanted longer passing periods, and I think one that stood out to me is that Frontier Charter School wants to change the mascot because it's very, very bland. That's what I've been told. So can look into that. And then after that, we had a cell phone policy discussion. So there was just a draft policy that the district was circulating, and our students got to give some feedback. There were points on both sides of, not permitting EDCs or electric, like communication devices within our schools. And right now, I believe there is a feedback form that students get to offer deeper and more thought out feedback for this policy. And I think they will also communicate with their own students at our schools. And then, not in this meeting, but our next meeting, our student advisory board is looking to propose a constitutional amendment. So it would amend some part of our constitution, and this would basically change the election dates for the rest of our executive board positions outside of president, so like VP or secretary, into the second to last meeting of the school year. And this would just allow our incoming executive board members to spend some time with the current board. I also want to thank this district for once again sending our students or ASD students to the AASB legislative fly-in, where students get to learn to advocate for themselves and their peers. And so we're looking forward to that. And finally, our president-elect application packets are open and will close on the 4th. So probably by not next meeting, but the meeting after this, we'll have the next person here at this meeting. So I'm really excited for that. And finally, our next meeting is on February 11th, 2025. And it's 12:30 to 2:30 p.m. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Pack. Are there questions for our student representative? Hearing, seeing none. Thank you, sir. Our next update is for B2 military report. Colonel Hanson is here tonight. Welcome, sir. The floor is yours.
Are these new microphones? Okay, thanks. So good evening, Anchorage School District school board members, our ASD team, as well as parents here tonight. My name is Colonel Dustin Hanson. I am Joint Base Elmendorf Richardson's Mission Support Group Commander, here to represent JBEAR. I have 5 points to make tonight, and it's going to be a little bit of a thank you sandwich. So let me begin. First of all, thank you for allowing us to use the Ursa Major School as basically a training campus for our law enforcement entities and agencies. I've received a lot of good feedback from our security force defenders, as well as local law enforcement agencies, for being able to use this high school before it gets demolished, to use it for training, particularly in close quarters, as well as just training inside of a school itself. In case that ever needs to happen, we've had exceptional training being able to use that school. Number two, I'd like to announce JBEAR's effort to basically conduct a job shadowing event this spring. This is where we're going to encourage our units there on JBEAR to showcase to ASD students a variety of jobs, anywhere from engineering to logistics to aerospace to meteorology, including crafts and trades. We want to open this up to our students, expose them to what we do on JBEAR, expose them to unique job opportunities as they eventually graduate and move on into the professional workforce. We are a partner here. Number three, I'd like to along a similar vein, just announce that we are going to begin advertising for summer hires. Every summer, we have about 40 positions where we bring or encourage students at age 16 and above, as long as they're in high school, to come work for us for the summer and make some money, some hard-earned cash. We'll have positions, whether they're admin clerk positions, they are manual labor positions, even recreational assistance positions. We have about 30 of them, or about 40 of them this summer. And if it's a popular program, and I hope it is, like, we'll even expand it, more for next summer as well. So we hope that parents and teachers encourage the kids to come work on JBEAR, again, a community partner. And then I would also like to say that we are going to resurrect a program that we probably haven't had for a while. And it's a reading program. And so member lessons, your comments haunted me from before in terms of thinking about how we can be a better partner for, encouraging reading and building that academic rigor within our students early on. And so we're going to be encouraging our students, our warfighters, to integrate into the schools and either read or be read to. My school liaison officer, this is probably the best title of a program I've heard. It's called Readers or Leaders. Readers or Leaders. Now, in the military, we like to say leaders or readers, and we get this quite a bit. But I think as a student, I like to flip that and say, like, students, we encourage you to read. And as you read, you will become a better and better leader that this world needs. Readers or leaders, it's coming soon. And finally, I just want to say thank you again for opening your ice rinks. I've had a lot of positive comments from military families whose kids are doing sports right now, particularly like hockey. And the fact that the ASD has their school ice rinks open to local teams has provided a lot of positive value for our families. And so I just want to say thank you for keeping those open, for supporting the local teams. It's been a big hit for our military families, just getting kids integrated into a sport they love quickly. That's all I have for tonight, and I open myself for any questions.
Thank you, sir. There are questions on the board for Colonel Hanson. We'll go with Member Wilson first.
I don't have a question, but I would like to share some information in working with the junior ROTC program at West High. I learned that, and I'm going to read some of this, but I learned that 2 of the cadets at the West High JROTC received a scholarship to attend an accredited aviation university participating in a private license training program in the summer of 2025. They are 2 of 194 Air Force junior ROTC cadets around the world to receive the scholarship from Headquarters Air Force Junior ROTC, Maxwell Air Force Base in Montgomery, Alabama. Anyways, there's more information on this, but it's just a very, very cool opportunity for those 2 students to receive their pilot license. And it just shows that our partnership with the military extends past JBER. So I wanted to highlight that. I think it's amazing.
Thank you for sharing. Congratulations to those.
Thank you, Member Wilson. We'll go with Member Lessons.
Thank you for circling back to the previous meeting's conversation, if we can call this a conversation. I think that what you're conceptualizing is really exciting. And if I may, I would challenge you and your team to not limit it to young readers. If you and your team were to look at any of the ASD's data dashboards, you can go all the way up to like 9th graders with map growth. I'd wager there are hundreds of students in 9th grade who might respond positively to a program like what you're offering. And there are people in this room who are smarter than I am about, how you address older students' needs. But I think the needs are there, and I'm really excited for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that the warfighters are able to connect whatever the age group will be. If they want someone to read it to them or be read to, like, we are there for them, and it only helps everybody else. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Lessons. Member Bellamy.
Yes. Thank you, Colonel. Good to see you again. I love the job shadow. I recall a couple of years ago, it was Russian immersion students actually participating in military life. What was that called? NSA. Yeah,
Oh,
NSA.
yes.
Yeah. So I think that job shadow program is impressive. Our kids have such opportunities, so I appreciate you being a partner with that. And how do kids find out about the summer hire?
So I'm going to work with my school liaison officers to make sure that message gets pushed out to every school here.
That'll be great. And that's open to all kids, or is it just military families?
Yes. So all kids, as long as you're over 16 years old
16 years.
and you're able to get a background check to get on base access. Yes.
Awesome.
Every kid.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member Bellamy. Are there other questions for the military representative? Hearing, seeing none. Thank you so much, Colonel, for being here tonight.
Anytime.
We'll move on to item B3 on our agenda, which is board conference and committee reports. In that vein, I did want to read into our record language from our bargaining units, which pertains to board policy 4143. The district and the board have received notice that Teamsters Local 599 is requesting to begin bargaining for food service and bus driver attendant contracts. The notification here and there satisfies board policy 4143. Are there other board committee reports? Hearing, seeing none, we'll move on to C1, goal monitoring, college career and life ready, pathway concentrators, grade 12. Because we missed our first meeting this month, my understanding is we are going to be performing both halves of our monitoring process. So I'll read our standard scripting now. We're going to have our goal monitoring conversation on the technical report that was provided to the board. We want to confirm the 4 components of the monitoring report are present. The report shows what is being monitored and is focused on a specific and interim goal. The data for any applicable previous reporting periods, the superintendent's evaluation of performance, and supporting documentation that evidences the superintendent's evaluation via tables provided and indicates next steps. With the components present, we can begin our progress monitoring conversation. Dr. Bryant and team, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as you alluded to, this is our first goal monitoring conversation of the new year, and we didn't meet earlier this month because of the ICE event. So we'll kind of combine both structures into this meeting. So with that said, I'd like us to go to the next slide. So just to remind the community, and as the board knows, we spent a lot of time working on our college, career, and life readiness goal. And what the school board ended up making the decision for is to set a goal on increasing our graduation rates. So you'll see that goal on the top of the slide, but for the public's awareness, ASD has a goal to increase the percent of graduates to 90% by 2028. Now, that's the board's role. The superintendent's role is to set 3 interim goals for this particular goal. And just so we can zoom out for a minute before we talk a lot about CT concentrators, what the superintendent and his team, my team, are looking at are 1, CT concentrators. We'll walk through the definition for that in just a moment. 2, we're looking at GPA. And 3, we're monitoring the percent of students that are on track to graduate. So why did we choose these interim goals? It's because in different ways, these 3 interim metrics are a proxy for making sure that we understand whether or not we're on progress to meet our goal. So our theory of action is that if we can increase the percent of CT concentrators, if we can make sure that more students are on track to graduate prior to the 12th grade year, and if we can have GPAs at or above a 2.75 on average for our students, those are strong metrics based on the research and other factors that would culminate into a higher graduation rate. So we need to look at all 3 of these factors within the large COSM that is the Anchorage School District. So with that said, I'm sure a number of people listening to this conversation may not understand what is a CT concentrator. That's the interim 3.2 goal that you see on this slide. So essentially, we're trying to increase the percent of those students that complete a concentration within career and technical education to 90% by 2028. So at a high level, what do we mean by CT concentrator? That means that you've earned at least 2 credits within a specific career and technical education program of study, and that would be beyond what the district has asked freshmen to take, which is a course called the Freshman Academy Career Exploration course. Let's go to the next slide. So I'd actually like for our leadership team to brief the public and the board. What is a CT program of study? How do we measure it? What does this mean for our students at a very high level?
Hi, I'm Devin Roberts, Director of CTE. Thank you, Superintendent Dr. Bryant. In terms of the infographic here, in the world of career and technical education at a very high level, there are 16 clusters. They've actually just revised those, so there's 14 clusters and 3 cross-cutting, but let's just say 16 clusters. Health science, if you look at the right of the infographic, is an example of that. Science, technology, engineering, and math, STEM, as it's referred to, would be an example of another. Construction and architecture would be another. So those are some examples of very broad umbrella career clusters. Within those clusters, there's different ways of organizing curriculum and program. And one of those ways is in that sort of the orange circle there, pathways. There's 79 nationally recognized pathways that fit into those career clusters. But the focus is really on the program of studies, the sort of the gold or yellow circle there. And a program of studies is really what I would call the strategic plan. We work with industry partners and post-secondary partners to create a coordinated group of courses that fall within one of those career clusters or pathways. And those classes typically build on each other and build on technical and skills and knowledge for students. Embedded in those classes is career ready practices, so that students, whenever they end up in a career, they have these career ready practices that will prepare them for being great employees. Those things include things like teamwork, collaboration, creative thinking, those sorts of things, teamwork. In addition to that, the program of studies encompasses placing recognized post-secondary credentials into programs so that students have credentials that are recognized by industry once they've graduated from high school. There's additionally, these courses or sequences are built in order to make sure that they articulate into post-secondary involvement and into post-secondary training programs, including graduate programs, bachelor programs, associate programs, apprenticeship, and military, for instance. So that's a program of studies is really just a very intensive, planned, coordinated group of CTE courses.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. So as we were developing these interim goals, the district team came together and tried to determine what does the evidence say, what does the research say in terms of what can we invest our dollars and time in to ensure that we have more students graduating from the Anchorage School District. And I would encourage the public and the board to look at a couple of stats, because first I want to start this conversation by looking at national statistics, and then I'd like us to spend the bulk of this conversation on the Anchorage School District statistics. But just one example would be from the National Center for Education Statistics. They did a study in 2018 that showed on average there's a 94% graduation rate for those that complete a CTE concentration compared to a national rate of 85% for those that are not completing CTE concentrators. That's one national data point of many that our team looked at. The second one, this is actually a peer-reviewed study, Doherty 2018, found a 7 to 10 point increase in graduation rates. They did a study on high quality CTE programs. It's very interesting. It even goes so far as to determine when are the best times within a high school career for students to be engaging in CTE coursework. And they did find some statistical significance when it comes to CTE concentrators. All of that to say, part of this conversation will be around the universal utility of career and technical education programs. You know, I'll be frank that when I was growing up, there were many that would often, assume that a career and technical education program, or what was known as vocational education programs, was for a certain type of student. But when we look at the data a little bit more deeply, we'll actually see that there are very positive outcomes that lead to students being both college-bound and career-bound when they complete CT concentrators. In fact, when you look at the different types of CT concentrators, you'll notice that there are some that are within the vocational or technical fields, but you also see many within the realms of healthcare. And in terms of healthcare jobs, many in our community understand that those are high demand, potentially high wage jobs. And many of those don't require anything beyond some training that you can actually take during high school. And that leads all the way up to medical school and PhD and beyond. So there's actually a really nice spectrum that are complemented very well by a very robust and strategic career and technical education program of study. So with that said, we'll go ahead and move to the next slide, and we'll begin to open up our conversation with the board members. But this first slide shows our progress to date. The one thing I want to remind the board and the public is that CT concentrators for this board goal relate specifically to 12th grade students. With that said, we set our interim goal last summer. So this is very much a lagging indication of where we are and is not a reflection of where we aspire to be. In fact, the group of students that we should be focusing a lot of our attention on are for the rising sophomore students, because this was the first year that we actually had all of our freshmen complete Freshman Academy, which is both a class, but also a set of really great experiences for students, ranging from career exploration opportunities. You may or may not be aware, we have a lot of folks in the room tonight, so I'm going to use this opportunity to inform you. We brought in all of our freshmen to the Denina Center, and we had hundreds of booths set up for different careers, for Great Alaskan Jobs right here in town. And these people went above and beyond to really tell their story for what does it mean to enter this career field from the lens of a ninth grader. really great opportunity. On top of that, we actually also asked University of Alaska Anchorage to host our freshmen, where they got, for many cases, got to visit a college campus for the very first time. And then every day first semester, our students took the Freshman Academy Career Exploration course, which was version 1 of a big initiative that we want to continue within ASD. But essentially what we want to do is to give all of our freshmen the opportunity to explore colleges, explore careers, and to understand the landscape of the Alaskan economy and to figure out where they want to fit in that bubble, or perhaps even in a different state. So with that said, you'll see that right now our goal is far below the target. That's the snapshot of our current seniors. But over the next few years, we want to see the rate of CTE concentrators go up. Right now, that goal is 90%, which is very bold, ambitious. I know there may be some questions from board members as to, are we still aiming for 90%? I know we're kind of going slow to go far with our Academies of Anchorage plan. And at this point in time, I don't see any reason to adjust the bar, because I've certainly seen some very positive post-secondary outcomes, both within the college space and the career space for those that complete CT concentrators. So I think this could be a very good thing for all students. And this is also a great complement to the robust advanced placement, dual credit, and international baccalaureate opportunities that our students also have access to. So it's not the intent for those to go away, but we need to be strategic about which post-secondary programs to which we expose our students. So with that said, there's some data here that shows the percent completed the concentrator, also the cohort. Let's go to the next slide for a moment. And then, as always, we break down this goal by special subpopulation, economically disadvantaged, our male and female students. And we sent this to board members about 2 weeks ago, so I'm not going to belabor this. But what you'll see is that we have a lot of opportunity within ASD. You know, one of the things that we should be proud of is we have a strong 4 to 5 year graduation rate for students compared to our peers. Right now, 8 and 10 ASD students are graduating within 4 years, and even more within 5 years. We're seeing a similar success within CT concentrators to a smaller degree, but what you'll see is that there are gaps within various subpopulations of students. So as we transition into our board conversation on this goal, I'd love to really talk about how we can make sure that all of our students have exposure or access or knowledge of these courses, and how do we make sure that we leverage this opportunity so that it translates into higher graduation rates. So with that said, I'm going to let this slide sit here, and I'd like to open it up to board member questions as it relates to outcomes and how we can improve graduation rates in CT concentrators.
Thank you, Dr. Bryant and team. We'll start at the end of the dais, Member Bellamy, and work our way left.
Thank you, Dr. Bryant. You really hit a couple of the questions I had relative to the concentrators. I'm really intrigued that it's 12th grade, but I also know now, one question: does the 9th grade academy and the University of Alaska visit, that's part of 9th grade academy, does that count as a concentrator at some point, or is that just part of, does it not count? I'm just curious.
It doesn't count for the purposes of this goal. Really, the vision would be to cast a wide net. That's the vision behind the Freshman Academy course. We really want to make sure that as the baseline, every ASD freshman has a core set of competencies. And this goes back to not anything that me or any individual board member thought about. Those values actually came directly from the community, where we surveyed hundreds of people, and it culminated into the creation of a portrait of a graduate, which is really our North Star as an organization. So what's really neat is that beyond the CT concentrators, with that course, we have a huge opportunity to increase the percent of students that are self-selecting into a CT program because it's interesting to them. My theory is that there are many students that are not enrolling in CTE because perhaps they were not aware. That's my theory for this group of 12th graders, because they didn't have the opportunity to visit a college campus for the first time. Some of these 12th graders, they may not go onto a college campus until after they graduate. So we really have an opportunity here to invest in our students and buck those trends by thinking early.
So my question is, Mr. Chair, I just needed that clarification, but my question is, were we able to capture what programs or pathways had the highest participation among those students that did complete the concentrator?
Thank you for that question, Member Tell me. Yes, we do have, we have 14 of the 16 clusters, just as a general context, that in the Anchorage School District. However, certainly there are some programs that enroll more students than others, and the top 3 of those are health science, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and construction. Some others worth mentioning that also have heavy enrollment include the Arts, AV, Tech, Communications cluster, and then transportation and logistics.
Thank you. I'll wait.
Thank you, Member Bellamy. Member Lessons.
Great. Looking forward to tonight's conversation. Later on, I'm going to circle back to the FACE class, but we had the opportunity last month to review graduation rate data, and now we're reviewing CTE concentrator rate data, and happily, they both look at 2020, FY23 and FY24. So I put those 2 together, and I saw no relationship between graduation rates and CTE concentration. We actually had upticks in, like, when I look by gender, graduation rates increased rate, and even though CTE concentrator rates decreased between FY23 and 24. So I didn't see a relationship there. This is like speaking to my question about like why do we have this interim goal? And when I looked at graduation rate and CTE concentration rate by race, things just seemed all over the place. So what relationships does ASD see in its data for the past 2 years since we're monitoring progress?
Sure. And if I could also put the data that I'm looking at on the table so the administration can clarify for both me and Member Lessons, because when I'm looking at our supplemental data, just as one example, I'm looking at our male students just as one subgroup because it looks like graduation rates for male students is lower than females. So let's look at them for just a moment. So for those that completed a CTE concentration, I see that they have a 96.5%. Whereas I look for those that did not complete a concentration, the non-concentrators, it's an 80.5%. So that would be actually a 15-point increase for those that are completing CTE. I noticed an 18-point gain for those that are economically disadvantaged. I noticed a 14-point gain for Hispanic students, and I noticed a 24 percentage point gain for Alaska Native students. So with all of that to say, I do agree that there is not a causation that we can prove because of this data, but based off of what I'm reading on the supplemental data, I certainly see a case for a correlation. Can the team clarify what I'm reading and what Member Lessons is reading?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Bryant. This is all great news. I mean, when we started really looking at some of the questions that were asked, we took the time to reflect and really dive into our own data. I know that we often misconstrue the idea that the grass is always going to be greener on the other side, but in truth, it's always greener where you water it. And when we look at our own school district, we have a lot to be proud of. I think it's really important that when we look at that concentrator data that you pointed out, we do see a strong correlation between the number of students that have, of the cohort of students, we have 2,348 total students in the Anchorage School District graduating class, right? Of that, 514 of them are actually counting as concentrators. Those students that had concentrator data are graduating at a 95.9%. We just call it 96% graduation rate. And of the students that did not have concentrators, they graduated at an 82% rate. And this, if you peel back the onion and you start looking at all the different layers of the different subgroups, you're going to see in that supplemental data that we have a lot to be proud of and a lot of areas that we are actually targeting as goals to see some numbers move. We see that not only in their graduation rate, but we also see it in their attendance. You can look at 90% of our students that are economically disadvantaged. They are actually, if they have a concentrator, they are attending at a 44.8% rate versus their economically disadvantaged partners that are not having concentrators, who have a 36.5% attendance rate. So for us, the simple math is an 8.3% gain. And that's big when we're talking about we've already decided our goals are moving at a 2.5% each year. And just by having a concentrator, you're meeting that at almost 4 times the rate.
You have a follow-up member listeners?
Well, this is just an earlier request. Thank you. I know I submitted a number of questions ahead of time. I would appreciate the chance to more substantively think about the detailed responses. So if you could, if we can get those in Board Connect, I would appreciate that opportunity. One of the areas of concern, well, I guess maybe the follow-up question, since we're talking about numbers, let's just say on slide 4. And this is, we have these interim year goals for a percentage increase. And I know that there was an adjustment, which I appreciated, on the chart that we received. It looks to me that in order for FY25 to reach a 38.9% target, we're going to need to have something like 947, give or take a few, concentrators. Do we have that many students? Are we on track for that this year? Have we seen a 400 and something student increase from last year to this year? Because those students should have been enrolled, last semester or this semester. We should have a sense of who's eligible to.
I think we are on our way to being on track. There's a few of the headwinds that we have ahead of us because of we're not doing a schedule change. We're missing the opportunity to increase course offerings. So be that as it may, we still are meeting with our high schools. In fact, we met with 3 of them today to talk about what are their paths moving forward and how are they going to continue to grow CTE in their schools, even when they're facing FTE loss or the budgetary crisis that we have. And I think that if we can hold to what we have and we build slow to go far, we're going to be able to get very close to what we've hoped in our master plan.
Maybe I'll step back. And just talking about this chart, are we talking, I guess I'm assuming that for each of these years, we're looking at graduating seniors, right? So the FY24 data was for last year's seniors. The FY25 data is for this year's seniors. The FY26 goal will be for next year's seniors. Is that correct?
That's my assumption.
Yeah, okay. So I guess my question for this year's class, this year's graduating class, are we on track to have over 900 graduating seniors who are considered PTE concentrators? Because that's where the line would put us.
I guess I'm a little bit confused by that. This is still the first year of our first year of the master plan for our academies of Anchorage. So like our theory of action was placing it, well, this is year 1, we're moving with this cohort through. So we may see some increase in the years to come as schools continue to water that grass a little bit more at their school for the CTE concentrators. But in order to meet that kind of line, I'm really looking at what is our freshman cohort right now, and what are there going to be the next year is that sophomore cohort that moves in, and then eventually, in those 4 years later, we should see tremendous growth. I would dare to say spectacular growth.
Okay, so really, this shouldn't be a straight line. We're not really monitoring this year's seniors, next year's seniors, or the class of 2027. We're really monitoring the class of 2028 only, and not interim progress over each of the next 3 years.
We'll still be able to have that goal, but our eye on the prize is really because we're implementing.
Okay.
And being that this is the first year, we should really be focusing on the class that's being implemented with, right?
Great. May I continue to appropriate time? Okay. I'm going to pivot to the freshman, to the FACE class, and this is not a pre-shared question, but I do appreciate the ability to sort of peer into the lens of our data dashboard. And there's one called like rates of you can see who's failing and where. And what my reading of that was that 392 freshmen failed the FACE course, and that of those, 84% of them were economically disadvantaged students. That's a lot of students for whom I think the FACE course was conceptualized. And I also noticed that the rates of failure among freshmen in all first semester courses significantly increased this past year over the previous year, over FY24. And I also noticed that district-wide rates of failure among freshmen in core courses, just math, science, social studies, and language arts, increased this past fall. My understanding of the FACE course is that it was supposed to reduce the rate of D's and F's, and that's not what my reading of the data suggests. Has the administration looked into how well our students have done in the fall semester with FACE, since everybody had to take it? And what are your thoughts? The freshman academy course.
That's a very thought-provoking question. We actually have member lessons. We're looking at it, and one of the things that I always want to try to remind myself is, as I look at data, as I talk with our team about looking at data, it's not, I wouldn't call it a fortunate thing that we had 392 students that failed this class. It's 14%. There's also 86% of that class that actually passed it. And when we look at some of the other classes, like if we were to look at our math classes or some of the cores that you referenced, we'll see higher numbers than that 14%. And that's not to dismiss anything. But this is the first year that the FACE class was offered. And I started to look at that same data dashboard that you referred to. And what I noticed is that the number of students that failed classes had been increasing before we've implemented FACE. And it was actually just an increase of students that were failing. And it seems to be, if I had to make a guess, my own personal opinion is it's the COVID pig and the snake, that we're seeing some students that are missing some skills and we're trying to catch that up. But I think the beauty of this is, in that noticing, is that we're actually solidifying our choice to have freshman academy, where we have groups of teachers, caring adults, and educators that are actually tracking students at a high rate, trying to follow up and make sure who is attending and who's not. And they can do that with the freshman academy model. So it's actually a blessing in disguise for us to have this noticing and say, what are we doing about this? And how can we improve it for the future?
And then I'll just add to what Mr. Prince shared. I think our two interim goals dovetail very nicely when we look at both CT concentrators that we're talking about today, but our team will also be looking at the percent of students that have a 2.75 GPA. So really there is accountability and urgency to make sure that our students are passing their courses. And the reason why we chose that GPA interim goal is because the data shows that if you can maintain that GPA, you are much more likely to enroll in college and be successful in a course, potentially enroll in vocational coursework or what have you. So there needs to be urgency, not just to focus on the passing rates for the FACE course, but really all of our classes, because we need our students to be prepared for success in life.
Thank you, Member Lessons. We'll go to Member Wilson and Member Higgins and back to Member Bellamy.
Well, I just wanted to clarify in the data that was provided, are the classes the students taking at King Tech High School incorporated into these statistics as well?
Yes, all CTE courses at the secondary are included.
Member Higgins?
Yeah, mine has to do, I know that if we expand 7, 8 credits, we're going to have to change high school graduation requirements. It's going to have to impact some stuff. But I know in the past we've had issues that the electives may not have counted as credit when it should have or could have because of who's teaching it and things of that nature. Is there an issue right now that from a graduation requirements and from a course credit kind of issues that might be impacting either participation or graduation rates? Because you need to get credits for math, for example. You take carpentry, you can get, if you got it linked up with a math teacher, you get credit. I know they do that in some schools, and do we have issues in regards to the making sure they get credit in a way that helps them graduate, or our graduation requirements?
Thank you for the question, Member Higgins. So yeah, you raise an interesting point. One of the things that oftentimes results whenever we have an increase in PTR is that we oftentimes do see a reduction in electives, including CTE electives. It's not just career and technical education. Unfortunately, it impacts art and world language and others. And that is there is a relationship between that, of course, and making sure our students have the opportunities to meet the graduation requirements. That being said, there are a number of career and technical education courses and programs that are CTE in nature, but also provide academic credit. So for instance, we have a couple of engineering programs around the district that provide physical science to students who take it. We're piloting a natural resource and environmental management course that provides science credit. We're looking at developing a law and public safety course that could potentially offer social studies credit. So there are opportunities where sometimes they intersect at electives. We're looking at a digital art and design course that could be cross-listed as both an art and a CT course in order to provide some more flexibility for students.
And the other question, a follow-up, whoops, oh yeah, I'm on. Is location sometimes. I know at one point, because King Career Center was the place for career technology, freshmen couldn't take classes because he had to have an hour of transportation. You lost credit. And you had so many core classes. Is there any issues? And I know that some students are trying to go to different types of classes. I know some optional programs trying to take the programs that may not be available in their school, but they've got it in other high schools, so they can go to that. Is there a transportation or timing issue in regards to getting access to all the students in regards to that?
In terms of transportation, there really, I don't believe there is. We have regular opportunities for students to interface, in particular with King Tech. The problem with King Tech is that in terms of CT concentrators, it really is limited. There's only so many seats. The class sizes can only be so large, and there's an AM PM session, as you mentioned. But it is doing well, and it is contributing to our concentrator status for sure. We do see that there is more limited involvement in career and technical education at some of our Big 8 schools. For instance, we see a 16%, 15 to 16% engagement with CTE program at Eagle River and South High School, for instance. And we see more moderate engagement at Diamond at 12.09%. And there are other schools that are closer to 4.23 and 4.66%, including Bartlett and Betty Davis East. And so we do know, and part of our plan is to increase access to career and technical education. And one of the ways to do that is to put it in the buildings where the students are.
Thank you, Member Higgins. We'll go back to Member Bellamy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I want to thank you, Dr. Bryant, for this data. This is a work in progress. I've not really focused on the concentrators until, I guess, the last year is when I really focused on what that meant. So I understand that it's a work in progress, but we're also having this conversation because 43% of our kids go right to college? 40-something% of our kids go right to college.
That's approximately correct, yes.
The rest of the kids are getting jobs. So hence we have life, college, and career readiness. So with that backdrop, if a concentrator class takes, are there quarter ones or semester, or could it be either?
Member Bellamy, largely at the secondary level, CT courses are either being offered as a semester course, a year-long course, or in the case of King Tech Career Center, those are 1.5 credit AM PM sessions.
Okay. All right. So thank you for that. So do we know how many of these 12th graders might have gotten industry certificates or apprenticeships or whatever when they graduated? Because I do know that some of our kids are coming out and they're making not on their way to college, right? They're making a pretty good living. And part of that is because of what they get of the exposure that they have in high school. So do we have any data? Or it may be too soon to know where in the industry are our kids ending up?
Yeah, currently we report to the state CTE department work-based learning, and one of the accountability reports measures work-based learning exposure for our concentrators. And so our concentrators are engaging in receiving recognized post-secondary certifications. That's what the CTE department and the state calls them. Out of the 500 or so concentrators, 33.9% received a recognized post-secondary credential. For the 23-24 school year, that's a full year of data. We're monitoring it right now for this year, but we're halfway through the year. So that is 23-24 data.
Thank you. And if I might, one more follow-up.
Sure.
Sorry. So when our kids graduate, I think I've asked this question before, is there a way, or are we getting better at tracking where they end up? Like that 40% that's going to college, they're going to go to college no matter whether they get a concentrator or not, right? But there are kids who will graduate, and because they had an apprenticeship or an internship or some other industry connection, they're going to go right into a job. So are we able to track that now, or will we be able to in the future?
So Member Bellamy, we are still working with the Department of Labor and the Governor's Office and a few other statewide organizations, including the University of Alaska, to create a dashboard. That's sort of the goal years out. It'll take a lot of resources and funding to work with all of those departments, but the hope would be that we would be able to track our kiddos once they graduate, whether they go to college or enter the workforce in the state of Alaska, and what industries they're actually working in.
Thank you.
And
Thank
if
you, Mr. Chair.
And if I may add to Ms. Curl's question, so I've been looking closely at the National Student Clearinghouse data. So there's obviously a missed opportunity until we can get this information from the Department of Labor and other relevant stakeholders. But I find the data on post-secondary outcomes for college very sobering. I'm looking specifically at the class of 2018 because that's the most recent class for whom we have 6-year outcomes data. So just some data for the general public and the board. So the class of 2018 had 3,318 students, over 3,300. 888 had a degree within 6 years. So even though we have a very high college enrollment rate compared to our peers, about 42%, that is something to be proud of. Only about a quarter of our students get any sort of degree. And I even went so far this morning to do some finer math on that. So essentially, if you do a couple of additions and subtractions, that means that we have about 600 students that end up in debt, presumably. We have a lot of low-income students. The cost of college is very high. We have a ton of students who enroll in college but don't end up with a degree. And I know I shared this 4 weeks ago with the board, but I'll say it again because we have a lot of people in the room. The most expensive degree you can pursue is the one that you don't complete. And that's why I'm approaching this topic with immense urgency, because we need to put our students on track for financial freedom. And when we're setting up our students to be in debt after they enroll in college, that's something that we need to look on as a district, and of course work with our higher education partners too. But I mean, the fact of the matter is that thousands of our students within the senior class will not have any sort of degree. So we really need to think about what are the opportunities to set our students up to get more dual credit in advance. So that's something that I'm very passionate about. In my previous life, that was one big theory of action. If we can get our students more dual credit, then they'll have more equity in the post-secondary piggy bank, if you will, and they'll be more likely to enroll in college. But on the flip side, we need to think about ways to connect our students to vocational training and technical credentials too, because these are thousands of students that they're not in college, they don't have a degree. We need to figure out how we get these students engaged in the Alaskan economy so they can at least figure out their path to post-secondary if that was their dream. But I used to teach high school, and I actually taught at a college prep school. And one of the reasons why I'm a superintendent today is because one of my students was a graduate, a high flyer, straight A student, had gotten into college. I went to the movie theater. I'm a teacher at this point in my career, and I actually saw my student serving popcorn at the movie theater, a high school graduate, straight A's, enrolled in college, but she lost her way and she ended up, and I know how much a popcorn person makes. That was my first job. It was $5.75 at the time. The minimum wage has gone up since I was a popcorn guy. But the fact of the matter is that we need to set our students on the right track to be competitive in this economy. And then when you look nationally, the landscape really is putting more students towards looking at these high demand jobs that are out there. And don't take my word for it. Our high watermark for college enrollment as a district was 46%, and we decreased to 42%. So that's a 4-point decrease just within ASD alone. So really the purpose of these difficult conversations around resource allocation and the academies and all of this work is to really kind of be ahead of where I see the nation going, which is more and more of those with social capital are going to vie for those jobs that are in the technical fields. And we can offer those credentials here at free or little cost to our students if we set our programming right. So that's why this sophomore class is going to be hugely important when we think about ways to invest our very limited dollars for their coursework.
All right, Member Lessons.
I wanted to circle back to the extended conversation that we then moved on from. Mr. Prince, you were I think that you and I are onto a similar red flag, which is we have students in this year's 9th grade class who were in 3rd grade when a new reading curriculum rolled out. They were in 4th grade when COVID shut the world down. They were in 5th grade when we started remotely, and then many of them moved on to middle school. And I think we all know that a focus of literacy is really on the early grades. And I will just share that one thing I'm concerned about, and I sort of made a nod to this earlier when Colonel Hanson was here, is I'm concerned that a number of the kids, the students who may have failed the FACE course this year, I'm concerned about their literacy. Can they read? Can they navigate? Do they have literacy and quite frankly, numeracy needed to succeed? And when I think about our core mission, there are a lot of really lofty aspirations that I know that this board and administration have. But I'm concerned that we're going to be graduating or trying to graduate students who are fundamentally not equipped with the core literacy and core numeracy that they have. And I think all the career initiatives in the world are wonderful, but I think that this FACE class and maybe other classes, there are some big red flags going on. And I guess I would be interested in and challenge the administration to have let's put the pulse on these students. I mean, when I put a dipstick into the fall, MAP scores for our high school students, I really do count hundreds of students at our Big 8 high schools who appear to be, low or low average in their ELA MAP scores. That doesn't portend good things for the classes they need to pass. Biology and the sciences, there's some big words in there. You have to know how to break big words down. And I'm just genuinely concerned that a lot of those students, among the nearly 400, how many of them can't read or can't read where they're supposed to? And I guess that's not in this report, but I think that that's a core of the disconnect that I'm feeling with the focus on the academies, that we're not actually already attaining our core mission of getting our kids set up to even graduate.
Right. I really appreciate all of those kind of questions. And I would agree that you and I are aligned in the fact that we have the same concern. Like if students aren't reading and they're not writing and they have basic arithmetic skills that are subpar, it's going to be a concern for all educators. When you do speak about the FACE class, I would say that the FACE class is part and parcel with the freshman academy model. And my team today, we went to 3 different high schools, and at one of them, I was very inspired by the work that South High School is doing with their dedicated counselor for their freshmen. They have wraparound services with the freshman academy principal, and they spoke at length about each individual student that they were tracking. And we had a long conversation, a robust one that, I mean, at the very least, it was robust, talking about the fact that we spend a lot of time in high school right now, currently, in the years past, it was always reacting. How are we going to get these seniors to graduate? How are we going to get them to graduate in that last hour? You know, when you look at the number of credits that students are achieving their senior year, when everybody realizes like, oh my God, we don't want to have to call grandma and tell her not to come up to Alaska to see our wonderful one that we've waited so long to graduate, and it's not going to happen. And that's just reaction. But the positives for the way that we've set things up this year, in particular, across all of our high schools, is that proactive nature. That proactiveness of we see freshmen coming in, and we see them in the FACE course that right away, first semester. And we have teams that are looking at the students that are struggling. We have teams that are saying like, I'm going to break this group up, and I'm going to have this security person talk to these parents. They're going to make phone calls, and we're going to make sure that we connect with every one of our parents of our students that are sliding just a little bit behind. We're going to notify the students that need to go to, what was it that they were calling it itself? The learning lab. They actually set up a lunchtime learning lab for students that were not meeting the expectation of South High School for students in their English classes, in their math classes. They had support for their elective classes. And those things that were done are just above and beyond. And I think that in 4 years, you're going to see not so much reaction, but just pleasant surprise at the growth they've seen students make. You're going to see students that feel more connected and cared for because they were watched after very carefully. Their freshman year, which we know statistically, if we look at it, is the most impactful time for a student to make a transition into high school. If they have 2 or more failures, their percentage and chances of graduating on time go way down, like 30%, which is it's horrifying, you know? And I think that it's really our just cause and our theory of action is a good one. We just need to hold what we have and let the system work, because the educators at each one of those schools are doing their very best. And when they get their teeth into a system and they figure it out, they're going to master it. It's going to be a beautiful thing. And we're going to see that, but we have to wait and be a little bit more patient and say, we don't want to keep cycling through initiative after initiative after initiative. You know, I call it like the new car theory. Like, I need to get a new car because I don't know how the steering wheel fits, or I don't like the seat. So I get a brand new car that has the steering wheel that I like, but now I got to figure out how I'm going to get third row because I had another kid, right? So then I got to go get another car. And then I'm back to that whole thing, unless we figure out how to drive the car that we have and make an adjustment to that car. So my encouragement to all of us here is that we just do our best to water that grass and keep watching it get greener right here in ASD.
Follow-up member lessons.
I want to circle back to a comment that thank you, that Dr. Bryant made last March at the joint board and assembly meeting, and it caught my attention. And it was to the effect of the academies are very vulnerable, and I believe that was the word that was used, to a PTR increase. I don't understand. One of the reasons that I understand South may have had a positive experience this year with this investment in the FACE course is that they were one of the schools that received additional staffing allocations. Not all of the schools received that, right? Things were not dosed exactly the same when it came to staffing. Some schools received more staffing based on their lower enrollment numbers. Our bigger schools generally did not receive the extra staffing dose funded by the U.S. Department of Education. And 10 times as many students failed the freshman academy course at another high school as they did at South. I mean, this is where I'm thinking that we haven't had the budget conversations yet, but we are in a resource starved scenario. Can you guys share how this is gonna work moving forward?
Yeah, thank you, Member Lessons, and I'll go ahead and address my comments. So during the joint meeting, I did mention that we have a very, very tough deliberation when it comes to the budget. And one of the levers that we'll need to seriously consider is a pupil to teacher ratio increase. So what that means is that we'll have fewer teacher allocations amongst all of our schools potentially. This has happened multiple years. This is a common occurrence because of about 10 years of inaction from the legislature. So that really applies to any program. So for example, a PTR increase could put into jeopardy any specialized program that may be in existence at ASD, even if it were to not be cut, quote unquote. A PTR increase could impact programs like an Ignite, like an immersion program, like the ways that a third grade reading classroom is staffed. It could be more combination classrooms. And similarly, a PTR increase could mean fewer opportunities at our high schools. It could mean fewer electives. It could mean larger class sizes. These are all things that could be impacted when at the end of the day, you have fewer teachers that you're allocating to the same number of buildings. So the vulnerabilities are certainly not unique to academies, but the resource allocation challenges for us as a team of 8 to really think about over these next few weeks, because we will need to discuss PTR increases. The decision that the board ultimately makes when it adopts the budget will result in tough decisions at the school level. What electives will I offer? How many combination classrooms will I need to have? These are terrible decisions that we'd never want any school to make. But what I'm trying to convey to the board is that given the fact that when we look at our underserved populations, including economically disadvantaged, they're not graduating at the same rate as non-economically disadvantaged students. I'm very proud of the fact that within ASD, we have a graduation rate over 80%. But when we just look at that number, we forget that that's not the experience of various other soft populations within our school district. So when we bring statistics before the board that suggests there's a correlation between completing a CTE concentrator and higher rates of graduation, I think that's a really strong rationale for prioritizing career and technical education in our schools. The final number of staff that I'll have to work with is a function of the school board's decision, but my eyes are wide open to the impact of a PTR increase. But at the end of the day, our students will have to have classes that are not their core classes that they're enrolling in within the high school. And the purpose of the day is to make the case that, well, let's hope the CTE is one of those choices that they have.
Thank you, Member Lessons. Member Wilson.
I have comments more than questions. While Member Lessons was talking, I could envision many of my kids struggling through freshman year for many other reasons, because of their home lives, because of many other things, because they don't really think about academic excellence until maybe their sophomore or junior year. And there's a lot of freshmen that I've worked with and talked to that it really starts to settle in that they need to do better after their freshman year. So the numbers don't always surprise me when I know that they're not, all of our freshmen aren't doing extremely well in all of their classes, only because I've worked with quite a few of them. But one thing that really I've learned does work for a lot of our kiddos who are not just naturally or are academically driven coming up through school is if they're interested and if they have connection. And that's why I really advocate for CTE so hard, because so many of our kiddos who maybe don't see the relevance of math, but then really like hands-on work and they get to do some construction and they learn the relevance and they learn the understanding of why math is so important to something that interests them, then they pay attention. And the connection, having that connection you were talking about having that connection in that freshman academy class and having that opportunity to reach out to family, to have that connection with the kid, with a student, to make that connection with the student, that can make all the difference for many of our students. That connection with not just the staff, but with the opportunity to connect with our business partners. The CTE also has brought in and continues to bring in more business partners, which continues to bring in an opportunity for more connection for our students. And that connection ultimately and ideally for our students will connect them to the academic content. But oftentimes I have seen without that interest, without that connection, they don't understand until later on in their high school years, because of whether it's immaturity, whether it's things going on, whatever it is at that point in their lives and age. It's just so tremendously important that the other factors are present. And for me, that is one of the main reasons why I advocate so heavily for CTE, because I've worked with so many kiddos who once they are interested, once they find something that's interesting to them, once they can find that connection, then their academic paths change, and they change for the better.
Thank you, Member Wilson. I'm going to jump in with a question regarding implementation stages and next steps. One of the things that's highlighted by administration is that the goal is to increase the amount of financial literacy coursework as a part of the phase iterative that exists next. Is the desire to supplement the existing coursework that exists in economics class, or is it to replace that? Because we do have it in theory as part of our graduation requirements now through existing coursework. And so curious what that vision looks like, or if that's still being worked on.
Yeah, great question, Mr. Chair. So right now, ASD has a requirement that students take 4 years of social studies. Freshmen historically had gotten that credit usually through a course called Ancient Civilization, though that was not required, but it was an offered course that many freshmen took. I envision that our revamped Freshman Academy course will take that social studies credit. Right now, the FACE course is not a social studies credit, but we're reimagining it and revamping it so that it's even more relevant to what students need to know when they're in 9th grade. One of the ways that this would be a social studies credit is by incorporating more curriculum strands on economics, for example, financial literacy. Financial literacy is a huge deal. Even right now, there's a pre-filed bill in the legislature that underscores the urgency for financial literacy. I envision ASD going above and beyond that as early as freshman year through this course. So there are really great things in that course right now that we want to keep. There's exploration of colleges and careers and that sort of thing. But I really want to push the team to make sure that this course is geared towards the lens of the Alaskan economy and figuring out what skills and opportunities there are. When you understand the economy through the lens of an Alaskan, you'll learn a lot about, and in fact, this slide is very relevant. You learn a lot about the role that natural resources play in the Alaskan economy, and then we'll dig deeper and figure out what are the jobs within that area and what are the skills needed to thrive in that particular field, be it a vocational course that you could take within high school or college credits so you can go and get a degree in it. And that extends to health science and what have you. So really the vision would be all of our freshmen first semester take this 0.5 social studies credit course that will be reimagined and more aligned through the personal finance lens. And then from there, we'll encourage as many students as possible to seriously consider opting in to one of several pathways that we'd like to offer at our schools. There were dozens of career pathways that we wanted to offer to all of our students through the academies of Anchorage. Because of the schedule change and our financial limitations, we've really parsed that down to the most essential pathways that we feel that we can offer with the staff that we have, and of course contingent on whatever the final pupil to teacher ratio is that the board ultimately adopts. But we do feel feel confident that there is a chance that we can pursue some, if not all, of the CT pathways that are listed on this slide. So it would be a really nice way to continue to offer the course to all of our freshmen, make sure they have these, competencies in financial literacy and career exploration and college exploration. And then I hope that many of those students will pursue a variety of these pathways. I want at least 2 at every high school. But again, this really depends on how the final budget shakes out. But I think that the aspiration is appropriate. If it's not ambitious enough, maybe it's not ambitious enough. I really wish that we could open more spots for students, but I think this is a step in the right direction, and it'll start with that revamped freshman academy course. Mr. Prince, is there anything else you'd like to share about the new class?
Just to add a little bit more, Dr. Bryant, and answer Member Jacobs' question, I really appreciated the question. We're not trying to replace economics. I think one of the important things that we see as educators is that you get one touch early, you get another touch later, and it continues to build on itself. And right now, our social studies coordinator is looking very, very closely at the newly adopted Alaska State Standards for social studies and making sure that we are adding as complement to and not trying to replace, right? So we're looking at how can you add personal finance to a course that all freshmen are going to get? Because we know as freshmen, your prime time, this is where you're going to start looking to get a job, right? You're going to be that guy standing in the movie theater like Dr. Bryant serving up popcorn. And you're going to have to figure out, like, how am I going to save what I make here? And what am I going to put aside for maybe my hopes and dreams for the future? And then later when you're a senior and you take your economics class, and then you remember back when you were a freshman, way back when, what that actually built on. And we also want to make sure that it's done deliberately and intentionally to support the curriculum that's going to follow through in Alaska Studies, and then the other courses that they're going to take through their history strands as they continue in high school.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that clarity, and I'm glad to hear that it's going to be a continuation of yes and. And I just for context, I know personally that the financial literacy bill that's been introduced, and I think this will be the second session, was modeled off of the work ASD's done to implement financial literacy within our curriculum. So I'm grateful for the work and the attention to detail on this topic in particular. Mr. Peck, you have a question, sir?
This is a question for Superintendent Bryant. I'm sorry if I misinterpreted the data that you shared in the beginning. I mean, the high graduation rates that you mentioned is definitely appealing, but I am wondering if that data, or if there is data that shows like such high graduation rates along with students taking the CT concentrators in such a scale that ASD is envisioning, like district-wide for most secondary students. Because I could see 100% the individual benefit and motivation for students who actively seek out the career versus, just the rest of students who are considering college or not really sure if they're pursuing career just yet, and I want to see if it's really economy of scale.
Sure. Member Pack, if I understand the question, I think you're wondering about the feasibility of as many students as we're proposing taking those CT pathways. It's certainly a possibility. I think that's the aspiration, but I want to add a caveat that these are not the only ways that you could take coursework that is correlated with higher graduation rates. I do know that students that are successful in advanced placement coursework, they're often more likely to graduate from high school and do well in post-secondary. But it is interesting when you look at the current technical education, like, can we structure the district such that if 90% of students were interested in CTE, could they enroll? I think we could get there, but I think a big part will be investing students and teachers and families into this idea. I think one of the biggest things that I'm trying to tackle as superintendent is really breaking down, I think, decades of discourse that really pitted colleges against the careers. And I think that, and then I went on to work in the college and career space for almost 10 years personally, because I'm very invested in the topic. But I think what often goes forgotten is that most of us will end up in careers. A lot of us went to college to get there, but some of us don't. And for that reason, there is a lot of a universal applicability to these career programs of study. You know, I was really heartened when I got a call from one of my colleagues in the community when she let me know that her son got into Harvard early, and I was really excited to hear that. ASD student. We have great counselors and great teachers that led to that. But then she just volunteered the information that her student had completed one of our CT programs of study. It was like, oh, wow, isn't that amazing? That really Harvard understands how relevant completing a CTA concentrator is to the rigors of Harvard, right? And it wasn't just that person. Then like we got the thank you email from the student, another ASD grad that got into an MD PhD program and specifically cited the fact that they completed a career and technical education program of study as one of the reasons and rationales that they were so prepared. And for those of you who don't realize this, an MD PhD program are typically fully paid for by the university. So there are very few doctors that can say that they graduated debt-free, but this particular ASD student will be a doctor completely debt-free. And that's in large part due to this fantastic program of study that we offer. So imagine if we offered it to 90% of students and we could afford it and they were successful. Wouldn't that be transformative? I certainly am compelled by that vision.
Thank you, Mr. Pack. Member Lessons.
I appreciate the administration reviewing the new Alaska social studies standards. The State Board of Education did revise them as recently as at their December meeting. I don't see, based on the current base content, and it sounds like there'll be a revision, I don't see alignment with time management and personal presentation with areas of inquiry and content knowledge. To me, those are two fundamentally different classes. And I think it's fundamentally wrong by this board to require all freshmen at the 8 comprehensive high schools, but not at the other high schools. So it's not a graduation requirement to take this course. And for the administration to consider calling the FACE course an elective when students are going to be required to take it is a misnomer at best. And so I just want to underscore my opposition to the plans that are being laid out. And I realize that we're goal monitoring, but I need to say what needs to be said.
Thank you, Member Lessons.
Noted Member Lessons. And if I could just add that the intent is not to ask the board to adjust the graduation requirements for the FACE course. Really, we would just uphold the board's requirement that they complete 4 years of social studies. And essentially, this course would be just as required as the Ancient Civilizations course, very similar, where many students do take that course, but it's not explicitly required by the board. That's the current plan. Just wanted to make that clear.
Member Bellamy.
I was gonna try to make that same clarification. Anyway, I just want to thank the team for, I know I sent in a few questions and I think all my questions got answered. We have had the Freshman Academy one semester. And while that gives us some data, we got a ways to go. And COVID didn't just give us struggling readers across all grade levels. We've always had struggling readers, but we've also had amazing teachers to make sure that kids get what they need as they, that they may have missed. So while as awful as COVID was and as much of a challenge it is, I do not think bringing it up in the same context of this this strategy. When I was a principal years ago, we always struggled with how do we transition 9th graders so that we set them up for success. This is what this is. We're still trying to figure it out, except the difference is we have a path. And I, for one, is really appreciative of that pathway. So I thank the administration and the team for bringing forth the concentrator data. And I look forward to looking at more data in the future relative to the life, college, and career readiness goal. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Bellamy. I'm not seeing any other questions or comments. And so I think we can close our work session close our session of goal monitoring regarding the concentrators. Thank you, team, for making time for the presentation.
Thank you so much.
Move on to item D1 on our agenda, which is public comments and specifically student public comments. I want to welcome everyone to the board's first opportunity for public comment. The board has set aside a 1-hour time slot at the beginning of the meeting for public comment. Public comment in excess of 1 hour will be heard at the second opportunity for public comment at the end of the meeting, or comments may also be submitted in writing. During public comment, board members will not answer questions or engage in discussion with members of the public. This is the public's time to speak and the board's time to listen. The school board welcomes the public to observe and contribute to our meetings through their comments. However, to be productive, our meetings must be structured and civil. ASD conducts our meetings under Robert's Rules of Order, a set of rules for orderly meetings that have been used since the late 1800s. Those rules require the board and the public to be civil and respectful of each other's opinions and statements. Here are a few requirements under Robert's Rules of Order. Do not attack a member's or speaker's motives. No profanity or foul language. Refrain from disturbing the meeting. No cheering, applause, outbursts, or waving of signs or posters. If you have handouts that you wish to share with the board, please hand them to Ms. Sullivan, who is seated to my left. As as chair of this meeting, it is my duty to enforce these rules of civility and decorum as such and consistent with Robert's Rules of Order. We will rule any speaker out of order for violation of these rules or failing to conduct themselves in a civil manner. And then additional details and information can be found on the handout located near the door regarding audience participation. With that said, I want to begin with our student testifiers tonight. For anyone not familiar, we prioritize student testimony here in our boardroom during our meetings, and so we'll call students first and then prioritize parents who have a student present tonight so we can get those students home and ready for school the following day. First listed is Miranda Adney. Welcome. Please state your name for our record, and then you have 3 minutes.
Dear members of the ASD School Board, Superintendent Bryant, and School District Leadership, my name is Miranda Adney. I am in the 4th grade at Roca Shula Junior School. I have a little sister, Willa, who is in kindergarten at Roca. My sister and I love attending Roca Shula and learning to speak German. Some of my favorite things about Roca Shula are participating in battle for books with my teacher, Frau Robertson, and doing math with my teacher, Frau Reinhardt. Art class with Frau Janier, and having my mom as a school nurse. I enjoy playing at recess with my friends. Some of my friends I have known since preschool and others since kindergarten. I love to read books, and my favorite subjects are history and science. My dream is to become a veterinarian, to live in Alaska, and take care of pets like my hamster, Pearl, and my dog, Lupin. Please help the students and staff of Roca Shula. I hope you will think about moving our school to a different ASD facility next year. This move would help keep our school open and allow the other ASD students to learn at our great ASD dual language charter school. Thank you for your time and your support of ASD students, including our ASD charter students like me. Danke.
Thank you, Miranda. Our next testifier will be Marina Pedamunos. Welcome. Please state your name for our record. You have 3 minutes. Please begin when you're ready.
Hi, my name is Marina. I'm a student in 8th grade at Roca Shula. First, I would like to thank you for doing what you do and helping us have school in Anchorage. Roca, I believe, has an exceptional program and has led me to learning many things, like reading. I think our reading program is spectacular. Recently, we have won many reading competitions, such as Battle of the Books. My team won the 2023 and 2024 state competitions. I think that it's mostly due to our teachers and our bilingual programs. Learning in different languages really does help, especially, with ELA, because you learn how other languages work as well. I think learning others leads to a deeper understanding of the original. It's a little, Roca Shula, it can be a little cramped at times. The halls, they're a little small. It would be useful to have a bigger school. Our music room, which I think might be the pride of Roca Shula, is a room without room. A little unfortunate. I know that it's our music teacher's dream to have a bigger room, a bigger space, and an easier space to teach the current students more material. I know that the board is concerned about reading due to COVID, which is fair. But Rilke, with its programs, can read like there's no tomorrow, as has been shown. I think that Rilke could continue to teach our students better and better if we had a larger building. Please consider putting Rilke in Lakewood, seeing as it is empty and would have a better use with students in it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Our next testifier is Bingit Wilder. And then folks would ask if we could just provide maybe one round of applause at the end of our student testifiers. That way we can ensure all of our students are honored for taking time out to speak tonight. Welcome, you have 3 minutes. Please state your name and then you can begin when you're ready.
East Kaisa Bingit. I am in first grade at Rokashula German School. I would really like to move our school to Lakewood Elementary so that we have more staff in our classroom.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Appreciate it. Our next speaker is Juliet Peterson. Not seeing Juliet here. Moving to the front, we'll go to Marin Hildy. Welcome. Please state your name for a record. You have 3 minutes and you can begin when you're ready.
Hi, my name is Marin Hildy, and last year and several years before, our school has done amazing in the State Battle of the Books competitions. Last year, all 3 of our teams from 3 different grade levels went to state, and my team won. And our reading is just super good at our school. Another problem that we have in such a small building is that our music teacher here, Downey, we have several different musical programs, and we like to call our music room the room without room because there really is no room in there. We're all getting kind of like scrunched in with all the instruments and kids, but we really do love playing music at Rilke, and it's a really fun thing that we do. Our other thing is that our PE room, so our gym, is also our lunch room, and it's also our assembly room. So on days when we have assemblies, the PE class just has to go outside because there's nowhere else for them to go. And also our lunchroom, it'd be really nice for our PE teacher, Trainer Maddie, to be able to not have to plan her classes around when the lunch periods are. And that would just be really great overall for those 3 different things to have each their own room. We also have a foreign exchange program where 15 of our students go abroad to Germany every summer, which I was part of last summer. And then those students that we went and visited, our partners, they come back to us in the fall. And it's really fun. We had a great time last fall, but with adding 15 students to all of our middle school classes, well, not all of our middle school classes, 5 students to each classroom, it just got really cramped and crowded, and we had to add a lot of extra chairs, and there was 3 students to a desk sometimes. And it'd just be a lot easier for that exchange program if we had an extra room maybe for the exchange students to meet each morning, or just more space to add in another table or something like that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Our next speaker is Daniel Ayertis. Welcome, Daniel. You have 3 minutes. Please begin when you're ready.
Guten Abend, liebe Schulbehörde. Ich heiße Daniel. Ich bin in der Klasse an der Werkschule. Ich möchte den Herzen. Good evening, school board members. My name is Daniel. I am a first grader at Rokashula. I'm here to ask for your help. Rokashula is a special place for me, where I am learning both English and German. But right now, my school needs a new home. I hear my mom say that if we don't move, our head principal to pets, like letting go more teachers. But I love my teachers. If we move to a new building, my teachers can stay and we can have more room. I hear this new building at Lakewood has bigger classrooms, a real gym, a real lunchroom, a real library. It also has a huge playground for recess and rooms for kids that need extra help. Things that we don't have at Roca Shore right now. By letting my school move, you are helping me, my friends, and my teachers. Please say yes to giving my school a new home. So Roca Shore continues being a special place for my friends, my teachers, and me. Jonka, thank you.
And thank you for your testimony. Our next speaker is Roland Ivory. Welcome. If you could please state your name for a record, and you have 3 minutes. You can begin when you're ready.
My name is Roland. I would like for Roca Shore to move to Lakewood. I like speaking German. Thank you.
And thank you for your testimony. Our next speaker is Georgia Moyers. Welcome, Georgia. If you could state your name for a record, then begin when you're ready. You have 3 minutes.
My name is Georgia Moyers. Guten Abend, vielen Dank für die Gelegenheit, mit Ihnen zu sprechen. Good evening, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. I'm a 4th grader, and my brother, Emmett, is a 2nd grader at Roca Shore. I am here to request that Roca Shore be allowed to move into Lakewood Elementary School. It really seems like the perfect fit for Roca Shore, and the timing couldn't be better. But I'll leave those right size, right time points for the grown-ups and get to the top 3 reasons why my brother and I are so excited about this opportunity. First is all of the additional space at Lakewood, including a huge outdoor area. At Roca, I think we've done a good job being resourceful and working with the space we have, but it's really small, about 25,000 square feet of playable area. Lakewood's outdoor area is about 250,000 square feet. That's 10 times the size. It has a huge playground, basketball courts, swings, giant fields, foursquare, and funnel ball. So many more activities. Second, the space inside the school is so much bigger. Our current building is about 40,000 square feet. We are cramped. It's like my music teacher, Herr Downey, always says of our music room. There's no room in this room without room. At Lakewood is almost 57,000 square feet. That's like adding another floor to our current building. At Roca Shore, we have one multi-purpose room that serves as gym, lunchroom, and auditorium. Lakewood has a dedicated gym and cafeteria, among other things. While having a cafeteria doesn't guarantee we'll be able to have hot lunches, it gives me hope that I could take a break from my dad's packed lunches from time to time. Lastly, I am also excited about the library. We really appreciate the volunteers from our community who have put together a small library in an alcove at our school. We are doing the best we can with what we have. As an avid reader and Battle of the Books competitor, I love reading new books. A full library would offer so much more. Roca Shore is a great school, despite our small space. The teachers, staff, parents, and kids make it great. I think it can be even greater in a bigger space, especially considering that this bigger space would save money and allow us to use the school budget on things that would help kids the most. Vielen Dank für Ihre Zeit und Aufmerksamkeit. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you for your testimony. Our next testifier is Ava Kelseth.
Hi, my name is Ava Kalseth, and I'm in third grade at Roka Shula, and I want Roka to move to Lake Hood, so we don't run out of money paying rent. Roka teachers are great, and I want them all to stay. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Our next testifier is Deslina Russ. Welcome. You can say your name for record. You have 3 minutes. Please begin when you're ready.
Dear ASD Board Leadership, my name is Teslina Russ, and I am a fifth grader at Roka. My mom will talk about our school growing to its full potential, and here are a few things I'd like to share about. I heard other schools have cafeterias, but our school has a small space, so we use our gym as our lunchroom. That means less time for gym classes. Sad face. Our music room is also very little with no room for instruments. Sad face. One of my favorite classes is art, but our building is so expensive that we have less for our art supplies. Sad face. I would love to see our art program grow, not shrink. Please help us move to Lake Hood Elementary. Thank you for your time. Dankeschön für Ihre Zeit.
Thank you for your testimony. Our next speaker is Lorelei Goller. Thank you for helping us get through all of our students so they can get to bed at a decent hour tonight. We appreciate you guys.
Hello, my name is Lorelei Galler. I am 7 years old and I am in second grade at Roka Shula German Immersion School. I'm 7 years old and I am in second grade at Roka Shula German Immersion School. Thank you for this opportunity to speak about one special place Roka Shula is. We hope that we can convince you to consider allowing Roka Shula to move to Lakewood Elementary School. Roka Shula is a special school where we get to spend half of our day learning and speaking the German language. We get to learn all about the German culture and celebrate special events throughout the year, like Oktoberfest, St. Nicholas Tag, St. Martin's Tag, Miss Kindermark, and Wandertag. We are so thankful for the building we are currently in the school. Roka Shula can no longer afford to remain space which we have outgrown. If we want our school to continue, we need a more affordable building. Lakewood Elementary School would be a perfect fit for Roka Shula. We want to expand our German cultural events to include more of the Anchorage community, and we cannot do so in our current facility. We have so many wonderful teachers who work so hard to help us learn, but those of us who need extra support in reading, writing, and computers are holding classes in the hallway because we do not have enough classrooms to hold these lessons in. I love attending Roka Shula because I love my teachers and I love the German language. I am so proud of how much I have learned so far, and I hope to have the chance to continue learning at Roka Shula long into the future. One day we hope to go to Germany with the Roka Shula Travel Club and maybe even attend college in Germany someday. Roka Shula is a great school full of amazing teachers and staff. We feel so lucky attending this school. We hope that you will allow our school to move to Lakewood Elementary in order to allow many more students for years and years to come with a chance to learn at Roka Shula German Immersion School too.
Thank you both for your testimony. We typically ask each testifier to testify separately so everyone can have their 3 minutes, but we appreciate you guys coming out tonight. So Laura and Elizabeth, appreciate your time. Our next speaker is Amelia Kodolinski. Not seeing Amelia, we'll go to Dylan Frey. Welcome, you have 3 minutes. Please state your name for the record and begin when you're ready.
Good evening. I am Dylan Marlon Fry, a fifth grader at Rokashua. Our school is really special because we learn and speak German for half the day. I have loved this school for 6 years, but now we need a new building to keep our school strong. Secret is out about how amazing we are, and now we have outgrown our space and it's really cramped. Moving to Lake Hood would give us the room we need to learn and grow. This move would help us keep all of the awesome teachers and staff who make our school so great. I have a brother in second grade and a sister starting kindergarten next year. Moving to Lake Hood would mean a bright and long future for so many more kids. I love my school and I hope you allow this move to Lake Hood. Dankeschön and have a good night.
Thank you for your testimony tonight. Our next speaker is Catherine Cohn. Welcome, Catherine. You have 3 minutes. Please state your name for our record and then begin when you're ready.
Guten Abend. Mein Name ist Catherine Koch. Ich gehe seit 6 tollen Jahren in die Rilke-Schule. Es wäre schön, wenn wir eine größere Schulgebäude hatten, weil ich mir eine Bücherei wünsche. Unsere jetzige Bücherei ist sehr klein und wir haben wenig Bücher. Es war sehr hilfreich, eine separate Cafeteria zu haben, anstatt dafür die Turnhalle zu benutzen. Außerdem müssen Eltern kein Mittagessen packen. Das hilft auch, wenn ein Schüler sein Mittagessen vergisst. Die Eltern müssten nicht extra von der Arbeit kommen. Ein paar andere Vorteile sind, wie groß der Schulplatz ist und alle Felder, die dazu gehören. Durch den Umzug in das große Gebäude sparen wir mehr Geld. Und so können wir einen Nachhausmeister und einen Vertrauenslehrer und andere Mitarbeiter bezahlen. All das sorgt für eine bessere Lernumgebung in unserer Schule und hilft den Schülern so besser auf Deutsch und Englisch zu lernen. Danke für deine Aufmerksamkeit.
Thank you for your testimony. For our record, I want to note that Member Donnelly joined us at 7:37 p.m. Our next speaker is Joseph Gunziger. Oh, I'm sorry. Please go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Catherine Kill. I've been attending Rokashua for 6 amazing years. It would be great to move to a larger school building because I would love to have a library. Our current library is super small and does not have that many books. It would be very helpful to have a separate lunchroom from the gym. Then parents would not have to pack lunches, which also helps if a student forgets the lunch. Your parent would not have to leave work to bring it to them. Some other benefits would be how big the playground is and all the fields. It would give space for students to run around and play. By moving to this school, we could save a lot of money, be able to get a night janitor, a counselor, and other helpful staff. Moving to Lake Hood Elementary would create a better learning environment and help our German and English education. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Our next speaker is Joseph Gunziger. So we'll go to Kent Roth. Kent Fisher Roth. Welcome. Please state your name for our record. You have 3 minutes. You can begin when you're ready.
Hello, everyone. My name is Fisher Roth, and I'm in 4th grade, and I'm going into 5th grade. I have many reasons why I want to move to Lake Hood, but I will only give you 4 to save time. Here are my reasons. Our first one, our amazing music teacher, Herr Downey, doesn't have enough space to keep all his instruments. He turned down a few timpani drums because he didn't have space. That isn't right for the students because they don't get enough experience with awesome instruments. My second reason is Lake Hood would have a cafeteria. At Rilke, each day some people need to pull benches out of a storage room into the gym for lunch. That is way too much work each day. We were trying to get someone to make hot lunch for the students as well. Not only does that help the students, but it also helps the parents because they don't need to pack lunch for their kids each morning. It would be awesome. The new school would also have a bigger library. Basically, everyone loves the new library they made at Rilke. Imagine that a library, but just even bigger. It'll help the kids read more books, especially when they're comfortable. And finally, a lake would have a bigger playground. Kids can play football, baseball, hopscotch, foursquare, and much more. Students need space to have fun. At Rilke, behind the school, there was a swamp, and so we couldn't build over that. It would mean a lot to me if we can move. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Our next speaker is Alexi Music. After Alexi, we have Conrad Spillane. Welcome. You have 3 minutes. Please begin when you're ready and state your name for record.
Hi, my name's Conrad. And I want a bigger school and a bigger playground. And we need a bigger classroom. So we have to get a new school. And we have to make our teachers get better, and we have to get some more practicing of learning German. And we have to love our teachers.
Thank you for your testimony. Our last student testifier is Anton, and last name starts with S. Can't make up the last name though. So if you could say your full name and then spell your last name for our record, that would be really helpful. Thank you. You have 3 minutes. You can begin when you're ready.
I'm Anton, and my last name is Schweiger, spelled Schweiger. I'm in 6th grade, and the German immersion program is really important to me because I have an entire half of my family that speaks primarily German, and in the last 4 years, we've gone to Germany twice, and it's nice that I can talk to them comfortably without needing to speak in English. And our school is, look, we have our lunchroom. It would be nice to have separate lunchroom and our PE class, because right now our PE room and our lunchroom and then our presentation room is all in one room, and it's difficult to have PE class and then immediately after we need to clean up for lunch. And then if we have a presentation or a ceremony, we can't have our PE class and we need to go outside. And it would be nice to have a separate lunchroom from our music room, or our lunchroom from our gym. And our 2 music rooms are pretty small, and there's not really enough space for both of us with the instruments and all of the kids. And it would be nice to have a larger music room. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. I want to give one last ask to see if Julia Peterson, Amelia Kobolinski, Joseph Gunzinger, or Alexei Musik here? Someone will move to the front, and that concludes our student testimony tonight. If everyone could join us in giving them a round of applause, that'd be great. Okay, we'll move on to our public testimony to be heard on non-action items. Our first speaker tonight is Amanda Thompson. And our second testifier tonight will be Amanda Adney. If you could come to the front as well, we're going to try and pair folks up so we can hear from as many people as possible. So Amanda Adney, if you're present, please join us up front.
Grutsmith Anandra. My name is Amanda Thompson. I'm an ASD employee, and I am also a Rilke EPC board member, but I speak tonight on my own behalf. And I have a story for you. Once upon a time, in a forest between mountains and sea, was a poor musician's home where he lived with his 10 children and their new stepmother. Though the home was small for their needs, they enjoyed being together, playing all sorts of melodies, growing out of their hoodies, squabbling a little, but always caring for each other. The home also was full of sweet memories that they had of the musician's first wife and mother, and all 10 children who had inherited the cottage lease from her good godfather, who was a well-connected man who had many dwellings in the area, farms and luxurious addresses in nearby cities. The musician himself had some help from the rulers of the land, but each year their support waned. Soon his new wife grew angry with him, for as the 10 children grew, formed marimba bands, created huge art murals, and conducted elaborate science experiments, she had barely any room to grow her cottage industry business. Also, the godfather, seeing his goddaughter no longer here, gave no mercy on the poor musician and charged them even more to lease their crowded cottage. One day, to escape the scowling stepmother, 2 of the older children snuck out of the cramped cottage. They had no idea where they were going. They knew their beloved father and mother wanted something better for them. Soon they were lost. A fog rolled in. They had walked arms gripped together. Sticks broke. Wolves howled, and loons mournfully called. Just as tears brimmed in their frightened eyes, the fog lifted, and they found themselves by a serene lake. And a sprawling series of connected cottages rimmed the beautiful water. Out of nowhere, 9 sparkling people floated from the cottages toward them. One held out their head kindly. "Children, do you need a..." What's the end of the story? Are the children in their crowded cottage going to have a nice, spacious home for them to be able to live and learn? That's really up to you board members. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and welcome. You have 3 minutes. Please state your name for the record and begin when you're ready.
Good evening, members of the ASD School Board and Superintendent Bryant. My name is Amanda Adney, and I am the school nurse of Rilke Schule German Immersion School. As you know, Rilke Schule is an ASD dual language immersion charter school with students in kindergarten through 8th grade. We serve 480 students. Our success is due to our strong academic program, dedicated staff, and increasing community interest in ASD's choice programs. However, we face significant challenges in our current facility, including space constraints and infrastructure issues that hinder our ability to provide high-quality education. We are crammed into our facility, yet we need the student numbers that we have in order to pay for the facility that houses us. Seeing that our facility costs represent about 20% of our yearly budget. As the school nurse, my office is located in the front office of the school. It is also located directly under the stairs that our students use numerous times a day. This noise level makes for a less than ideal environment for the sick children who seek refuge there in hopes of feeling better. I have done my best to make the nurse's office feel cozy and comforting. However, there is nothing to be done about its location under the stairs. In this office, I also conduct the mandated health screenings, which includes hearing. As you can understand, this can be tricky to accomplish. I would greatly appreciate having access to an alternate quiet space for health screenings, but unfortunately, all of our classrooms are in use. During the school day, I observe our staff working with small groups in the hallways because there are no open rooms for small groups to work in. I acknowledge the hard work being done by all of our amazing staff members. You see, these are not only my colleagues and friends, they are also the teachers of my two children, Miranda and Willow. I have seen firsthand the academic benefits of my own children being enrolled in an ASD dual language immersion charter school. My daughters are flourishing in their studies at Rilke, and I am so proud of their accomplishments. We are requesting Rilke Schule be considered for Lakewood Elementary for the upcoming school year. A move to a more suitable facility will ensure the long-term viability of our program and align with ASD's goals of expanding access to choice programs. For Rilke Schule to be housed within a neighborhood, it would provide greater visibility and expand access for ASD students to benefit from the enrollment in a dual language immersion program. I kindly encourage you to vote in support of Rilke Schule and to provide our school with a permanent home within ASD building at Lakewood. Thank you very much for your time and your support of Rilke Schule.
And thank you for your testimony. Our next two testifiers are Piper Foster Wilder and Alicia Hildy. You join us up front, please. Welcome. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening. I'm actually, Piper's not available tonight. I'm her husband, Nathaniel Wilder. Hope that's okay. My daughter Bing gets a first grader at Rilke Schule. There are about 25 kids in her classroom and only one teacher. It's a classroom that is quite disrupted because the student to teacher ratio is so utterly poor. The teacher is creating engaging lessons for these students, but they're not getting the best of those lessons because there are too many distractions among the students in the classroom. And the sole teacher doesn't have the resources to keep the students focused on the lesson. My German-speaking wife has experienced it firsthand while volunteering in the classroom, because 20% of the Rilke Schule budget goes to the rent for the building alone. The school cannot afford to properly staff my daughter's classroom. The repercussions of this is that the distractions that plague this overpopulated classroom makes learning quite a challenge. Here in the final year of a 10-year lease, our school is in need of a building that meets our program structure and that would allow our budget to be focused on accommodating learning in the classroom via additional staffing. An actual ASD building would make Rilke's budget sustainable, and the currently shuttered Lakewood Elementary School is the perfect option for our student body of 480 plus staff members. Thank you so much for hearing us.
Thank you for your testimony and welcome. You have 3 minutes. Please begin when you're ready.
Thanks. Good evening. My name is Alicia Hildy and my 3 kids attend Rilke Schule. First up, I want to acknowledge the tremendously difficult decisions you all made to close schools. It is the most painful vote a board member makes, even in the most practical of approaches. You're ending years of time and energy that those students, educators, and families invested into their school. And I know none of you made those decisions lightly. But as stewards of public school funding, you also have a responsibility to make the best use of our school buildings to keep as many resources going towards student learning. In Rilke Schule's case, we've excelled at maximizing public education dollars. We've been paying rent the entire duration of our charter while consistently achieving the same high educational outcomes as other charters and special programs, but with fewer dollars. After years of exceptional financial planning and good governance by our APC, we are just entering into making some of the hard budgeting decisions that ASD has had to make for the last decade. Higher class sizes, teacher with 2 grade bands, having to cut positions. Thanks to our APC's long-term planning and our required volunteer hours by parents, our students have been spared much of the chaos that ASD regularly has to deal with, caused by one-time state funding, loss of bond debt reimbursement, and explosive healthcare costs. Our APC's declaration that we can't deliver the same high-quality education with less money is a truthful statement, and one ASD continues to make to the state legislator. Charter school parents are your strongest ally in advocating for inflation-adjusted school funding. But now, this board has something additional to bring to your advocacy. You made the hard decision to close schools, and now you can show legislators how the superintendent is maximizing building space by welcoming charter school students into a taxpayer-funded building. So instead of having public education dollars going to our landlord, they'll go directly to student learning. We want to honor the legacy of Lakewood Elementary and be a neighborhood school. We want to see kindergartners walking to Rilke next year. I'd like to have us have a neighborhood lottery priority like Stream does. There was perhaps a time where it made sense for a charter school to rent out commercial space if all of ASD existing facilities were full, but we're certainly far from that now. There is lots of space for ASD students to learn in ASD facilities. Your bringing ASD students back into ASD buildings demonstrates your commitment to making sure public education funding is directly supporting student learning. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Our next two speakers are Cassandra Ayertis and Jolene Corliss. You could both come forward. Welcome. You have 3 minutes. Please state your name for the record and begin when you're ready.
Dear ASD School Board, thank you for this opportunity to speak. My name is Cassandra Yurtis, and I address you as a deeply concerned parent of Roca Shula's student. I'm here to urgently ask you to consider relocating Roca Shula into an ASD facility as part of the right sizing initiative for next year. Roca Shula serves 485 students with a curriculum rooted in academic rigor and cultural enrichment. Despite dedicating half of the school day to German language immersion, our students consistently exceed ASD's benchmarks in mathematics and English language arts. Yet the very program that has earned these accolades is at risk. Our financial reality is dire. The lease on our commercial building consumes 20% of our annual budget, a financial strain that has forced Rilk to make heartbreaking sacrifices. We've had to cut critical staff positions, all to maintain the high quality education our children deserve. The impact on student is undeniable. We no longer have a dedicated counselor, and our vice principal is juggling multiple roles, including filling a social, emotional learning capacity. While this highlights their dedication, it's an unsustainable situation that shortchanges both the students and the staff. Our current facility is 39,000 square feet, which is inadequate for the need of our growing school community. A move into an ASD facility such as Lakewood Elementary with 60,000 square feet of space would provide larger classroom space and designated breakout rooms. These spaces are critical for students with 504 plans and IEPs who require small group settings and testing and individualized instruction. This expanded space would also allow us to better serve all students and create a more supportive, equitable learning environment. The larger facility would address long-standing challenges and offer new opportunities for our students. For example, schools like the Alaska Native Cultural Charter School has thrived in an ASD building, showcasing how access to such facilities can elevate programs and improve student outcomes. Without relief, the sacrifices we've made, such as eliminating critical positions, will only depend directly affecting the quality of education and support available to our children. We respectfully request that the opportunity to move Roca Shula into an ASD facility such as Lakewood Elementary to ensure the program's sustainability. This move would relieve the immense financial pressure on our school and allow us to reinvest in essential staff positions and provide the enriching education our children deserve. The urgency on this decision cannot be overstated. We need clarity about facility availability now so we can plan and communicate with our school families. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony and welcome. You have 3 minutes. Please state your name for the record and begin when you're ready.
Jolene Corliss. Good evening, Anchorage School Board members. Thank you for giving my son and I an opportunity to speak at tonight's meeting. My name is Jolene Corliss and my son is Roland Ivory. My son is currently a first grader at Roca Shula. I am beyond proud of the progress my son has made in all aspects of learning in the last 2 years. Roca Shula was a definite selling point for my husband and I as we were deciding to stay in Alaska. My family is from Germany, and I was stubborn and never engaged enough in the German language as a young person to be fluent. I'm happy to say my son is currently able to have conversations with his Oma in German and understand her. Learning German at the same time as his peers is priceless. Immersion works. Roca Shula provides many cultural opportunities for students and families to engage in and the community throughout the year. Roca Shula's academics are exceptional. The students often surpass the ELA and math goals for benchmarks, while half the students are learning in German, or half the days learning in German. Roca Shula's rent is about 20% of its annual operating budget for the school. I cannot imagine the additional opportunities Roca Shula could provide to the students and the community with the cost savings of being in an ASD building. We're asking for your support to move Roca Shula into Lakewood Elementary School to strengthen the positive work Roca Shula is already doing. I would love for my 2 younger sons to have the same opportunity as their older brother. Supporting this move into an ASD building will give my younger sons similar opportunities. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Our next 2 speakers are Danielle Kelseth and Aura Russ. Welcome. Please state your name for the record. You have 3 minutes. Please begin when you're ready.
Okay, Danielle Kelseth.
Good evening, members of the school board. My name is Danielle Kalseth, and I am a parent of a third grader and kindergartner at Rilke Schule German Immersion School. I am here tonight to advocate for Rilke to move into the Lake Hood building. You have heard from many people about the financial burden our school is under with the high rent at our current facility. But I'd like to mention another reason why a move like this would be beneficial for our school. Rilke has been growing out of the space we are in. Currently, we have students engaging in interventions in hallways and closets because we don't have enough space outside of actual classrooms. Our school has a thriving before and after school program, but we are at capacity because of limited space, therefore not being able to meet the needs of our families. If Rilke is moved to Lake Hood, we will gain approximately 20,000 square feet. With this space, we can invest more into our students' success and the future of our school. Rilke has been providing quality instruction to students since 2007. We have 480 ASD students and 42 ASD staff. This is the right opportunity to set Rilke up for growth in the upcoming years and ease our financial burden. Moving Rilke to Lake Hood is the right choice for right sizing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and welcome. You have 3 minutes. Please state your name for the record and begin when you're ready.
Aura Russ. Dear Dr. Bryant and board members, my name is Aura Russ, and I'm a parent to 2 Rilke Schule immersion kids, one being an alum who has continued with the German immersion program via Service High School, and the second of who is still attending Rilke, and you heard from earlier, Sad Face Girl. Thank you for your leadership and for the chance to share how Rilke has shaped our family's ASD journey of the last decade plus. For our family and many others in ASD, alternative programs like charter schools and language immersion are highly sought after. Over a decade ago, with our eldest, we can recall the intensity of applying for the lottery and waiting with great anticipation to see if we had been selected for our top pick, which was Rilke. The parent interest and desire to attend far outweighed the spots available, the very picture of an ASD charter school success story. Compare that to what we have all heard in the news for many years of late, now that ASD is shrinking, that families with young children are moving away to other districts, not drawn to ASD. That story of an ever-shrinking district does not have to be the legacy of ASD and can be reversed. If we identify what draws enrollment and provides sought-after offerings, then ASD can be known as the district where people purposely move to for the utmost education offerings. Then ASD can be known as the district where people move. I am here to boldly say that Rilke demonstrates such a recipe for drawing enrollment and being a success as the first K-8 language immersion program. Rilke is a charter school success, but has not been immune to the budget challenges that every school in the district is facing. Rilke's commercial building rent costs are increasing at an unsustainable rate, and Rilke is now facing choices that will dramatically affect the quality of our program. Things like losing teachers, support staff, enrichment programs, and beyond that will hurt our long-standing history since 2007 of our school and its trailblazing success. Yet a solution does exist. That is the chance to move into an ASD existing school, otherwise set for closure, like Lakewood Elementary. Rilke is no stranger to moving. In our period for our family alone, we have experienced and assisted with one move. A stable facility will allow Rilke to continue the quality of education we're known for and support our amazing teachers and staff. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Our next 2 speakers are Ellison Gawler and Ashley Kovalinski. Welcome. Please state your name for the record. You have 3 minutes and you can begin when you're ready.
Allison Galler. Hello, esteemed members of the Anchorage School Board and Superintendent Bryant. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening as an advocate for Rilke Schule German Immersion School. My name is Allison Galler. I am a mother to 3 Rilke Schule students, my son Grayson, a 3rd grader. along with my twin daughters, whom you met earlier, Lorelai and Elizabeth, both in second grade. I also serve as president of the Rilke Schule of Orion, the parent-teacher organization at Rilke Schule German Immersion School. We understand that lately you have been faced with many extremely difficult decisions brought about by ASD's right-sizing initiative. The Anchorage community is so grateful for the immense amount of thought and care you've dedicated to making these tough choices. I am here today, however, to advocate for a decision I am hopeful you will find to be an easy one. Reallocation of Lake Hood Elementary School to serve as the new home to Rilke Schule German Immersion School. In an opinion piece published on January 11th, 2025 in the Anchorage Daily News, Governor Mike Dunleavy sang the praises of Alaska's charter schools, citing a Harvard study published in 2024, which placed Alaska's charter schools amongst the best in the nation. The governor then went on to specifically name Rilke Schule as a school which, with its focus on bilingual education, delivers exceptional results through individualized teaching methods, smaller class sizes, and a commitment to meeting the needs of families and students. It is certainly true that Rilke Schule is an exceptional school. Its leadership is unparalleled, and its teachers and staff are wholly dedicated to the highest level of quality education and character development. While our current facility is bursting at the seams with nearly 500 students, every single student entering through the front doors each morning is greeted by name. Rilke Schule, as Alaska's only independently chartered language immersion school, is a testament to Anchorage School District's commitment to providing high-performing alternative educational opportunities to the Anchorage community. The outcome of this commitment, which you uphold, will undoubtedly be a generation of global citizens, confidently communicating the values and information instilled in them across borders and around the world. It is also true, however, that Rilke Schule can no longer afford to remain in its present facility and maintain the staffing levels and teacher-student ratios which have allowed the school to achieve the exceptional educational outcomes which they have lately been the subject of commendation on a national level. The opportunity is now at hand to ensure the long-term sustainability of Rilke Schule's mission by granting the use of Lake Hood Elementary School to Rilke Schule German Immersion School. In doing so, it will not only allow the nearly 500 currently enrolled students at Rilke Schule the opportunity to continue their bilingual academic pursuits, but it will also ensure that the opportunity for bilingual German-English education remains viable for Anchorage's students long into the future. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Our next two speakers are Jessica Frey and Rayliza Gunzinger. Welcome. You have 3 minutes. Please state your name for a record and then begin when you're ready.
Good evening, ASD board members, Anchorage community, and Superintendent Bryant. I'm Jessica Fry. I'm a parent of a 5th grader and a 2nd grader, and have a daughter entering into kindergarten this coming fall. I've also been a school volunteer since the day we stepped into the building. As you've heard from those before me, and will continue to hear from the long list of people here to advocate for Rilke Schule, repurposing Lake Hood to be the new home of Rilke Schule is hopefully the easiest part of the right-sizing efforts. As you can see by the sea of yellow, red, and black, Rilke Schule is far more than a school. This is an amazing community fostering bilingual education and cultural enrichment. However, our current situation is unsustainable, and we face significant challenges that threaten our ability to continue providing high-quality experiences our family and community have come to expect. Our classrooms and facilities are stretched to their limits, making it difficult to meet the needs of our growing student body. Lake Hood Elementary offers a space that aligns with our needs, adequate room for our students, and the potential for a stable long-term solution. By relocating, we can focus our efforts and resources where they belong, on students, teachers, and staff. Preserving our exceptional teachers and staff is critical. They are the heart and soul of Rilke Schule, and we cannot afford to lose them due to financial constraints. A move to a more sustainable space will allow us to retain our talented educators and ensure that they have the resources they need to help our children thrive. The opportunities that our students, all of these kids behind me, are getting being enrolled in this program are far beyond what I had expected when my oldest started school 6 years ago, and something that I'm sure will only grow in the next 8 years that we are students there. Something that I hope can continue for more families for many years to come. This will be made possible with the move to the Lake Hood footprint. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Our next two speakers are Paul Musick and Evans Sheldon. Welcome. Please state your name for the record. You have 3 minutes. You can begin when you're ready.
My name is Paul Missick. Thank you all for listening to me this evening. My son is a first grader over at Roca. My daughter, hopefully, with any luck, will be a kindergartner at Roca next year. I just want to share this with you. We had sent Alexi to kindergarten. We brought him home. What did you learn today? Nothing. What did you learn today? Nothing. And repeat, 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 repeat. We're several weeks into this and we're getting a little concerned. Saturday morning, he comes staggering down the stairs at 7 in the morning, and he's speaking in German, full sentences. Had a dream in German. Can you imagine that? And I knew just enough German to say, ja and then he went on and on and on and on. It was a full paragraph. It was amazing. So it's just to say it works. Later on in the year, we went over to Europe to visit my wife's family and got on Condor Airlines. And, you know, he made it a point to go to the flight attendants and say, I speak German, and had whole conversations with them the whole way over. Everything was conducted in German. Not only has his German been fantastic, but his writing is improved incrementally. His English is amazing. His math is amazing. He's really getting a quality education at this school, and I hope he'll give it the opportunity to continue. And I wanted to comment on the Lake Hood, the neighborhood. What a diverse neighborhood. It's ideal. Imagine putting an immersion school in a neighborhood with that diversity. It almost welcomes it. It's to me, it just seems so natural. We did a parks tour with the family a couple of years ago, and we went to all the neighborhood parks. We went to Balto Sapala Park, which is right down the street on Wisconsin. Tremendous, just a great reception. Everybody was welcoming and wonderful, shared food. It was just a tremendous experience. So I hope you'll just give us an opportunity to move the school there. Great neighborhood and a terrific program. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Mr. Sheldon, would you like to come forward? Welcome. Please state your name for the record. You have 3 minutes. You can begin when you're ready.
Hello. Hello. My name is Evan Sheldon. I'm here to speak up for my son. I know this is way off the subject from everybody else's, but I need my son to be heard out. I think he is being treated unfair at the school he goes to over at West High. My son gets in trouble every now and then, but my son Evans Isaac Sheldon, he just left. He gets treated bad at West High. Before Christmas, on the 18th of December, he got suspended. There was an incident that took place in his science class during finals, and my son was attacked. He was attacked by a student, and the student had problems with him because last summer we had issues. I even had to send police officers over to the kid's home. But on that part, we're not being heard by the school. I tried appealing his suspension, and he got attacked with a busted lip. He was sitting down in class, and the teacher wasn't paying attention. And there's a whole bunch of stories, and they do not go together for him to get the suspension. And one of the reasons I know it's not true is first of all, they're trying to say my son was recording them on his phone, in which his phone was in my possession because I had taken it from him. And I even cut off the service. He was going to school with no phone. Teacher would know that, but the teacher wasn't paying attention to the school, wasn't paying attention to the kids. My son told me that the teacher was at his desk on his personal device. And it's like I tell everybody, don't text and drive. Same thing. You know, pay attention to the kids. My son was, he was on ankle monitor because he got in trouble, outside of school a few months back. But then when he went back to school, the kid had beef with him. He knew he was going to get in trouble. And, I tried appealing this, tried talking to the school, and nobody's listening in on us. And I'd like to talk to every one of you. Get my phone number from Miss Peggy, and I'd like to talk to every one of you about this issue.
Thank you for your testimony, Mr. Sheldon. Our next two speakers are Pat Smith and Hans Schweiger. Oh, I have Hans F. Schweiger. I think we've got two Hans Schweiger signed up. Welcome. You have 3 minutes. Please begin when you're ready.
Good evening. My name is Catherine Smith, aka Conrad's mom. I'd like to say this is a picture perfect opportunity for the school, for the school district, in order to move the immersion program over into Lakewood Elementary. Not only is it going to help everybody with the expenses, it facilitates the ability for the program to grow. By growing the program, it also gives the opportunity for more students to enroll in the immersion program that has excelled. So I would like to request that the board bring this to an agenda for a voting opportunity. And it would be sooner rather than later, because time is of the essence with the lease expiring at the end of this year. It also provides the school the opportunity to put that money back into the school, to the kids. If they're spending $750,000 a year on rent, they're not putting it into their school. They're not putting books into the hands of the students. They're not giving them pencils to write their name. They don't have the ability to provide balls for them to go play out in the schoolyard. I do volunteer my hours at lunchtime. I do encourage you all to come see how that works. You have first graders, kindergartners all in the lunchroom, which is their multi-purpose room. They eat their lunch in their 20-minute time frame. They pack their books, they put them all in the cart, they go outside to play. When it's 20 degrees outside, when it's raining, when it's snowing, they're playing outside. If the weather doesn't permit it, they have a dance party in their classroom while the other students eat their lunch. I think it's a fiscally responsible decision for the school board to make to move this program into another facility. With that said, I'm going to leave it as time is of the essence, guys. I would like to see this come to a board meeting, an agenda meeting, to where it's a votable, actionable item for the board. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Our next two testifiers are Hans F. Schweiger and Hans M. Schweiger. Welcome. You have 3 minutes, sir. Please begin when you're ready.
Hello, my name is Hans Schweiger, and I'm a parent of 3 kids that are currently at Rilke Schule. One just is finishing up with 8th grade, and 2 are in 6th grade. Anton Schweiger is one of them who spoke earlier today. I'm speaking here today mainly to encourage you to consider allowing Rilke Schule to use one of the ASD buildings that will be vacated through the right-sizing initiatives such as the Lakewood Elementary. Rilke Schule has been an excellent school for my children. It's has a high parent involvement and a challenging curriculum with kids that rise to the challenge. I wish that a school such as Rilke Schule existed when I was a student at ASD 40 years ago. It's a tremendous asset for the ASD to have a quality immersion program such as provided by Rilke Schule. German immersion programs are fairly rare, with less than 10 across the country. In fact, a friend of mine considered moving his family to Anchorage so that his son could have an early education in German. For immersion programs to be successful, they really require sufficient interaction with the students and faculty, and Rilke has been forced to increase the student-teacher ratio, which is really to the detriment of an immersion program. This could be alleviated if Lakewood Elementary would become available to Rilke. It has been really satisfying to watch my kids develop their German fluency. It has made them feel like global citizens and has allowed them to be comfortable traveling in Germany. It has enabled them to interact with relatives in Germany. It has opened the doors for my kids to consider working abroad for the summers or maybe even pursuing university options. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak here and to advocate for Roka. And the other Hans Schweiger who's going to speak, he graciously went to go pick up my daughter, so he's not able to speak right now. So.
Understood. Thank you. And thank you for your testimony. Our last speaker for the first hour of public testimony tonight's meeting is Lauren Hugh. Welcome. Please state your name for the record. You have 3 minutes and you can begin when you're ready.
My name is Lauren Hughes. This is my son Hatcher, a student at Rilke Schule. I feel like everybody has stated very adequately and sufficiently the reasons we're excited and hopeful to move to Lake Hood. So I just want to take this opportunity to thank you all. I know you have busy schedules, and I just want to leave my hope with you. And our hope is that next year we would be going to Lake Hood with more space, a bigger parking lot, and a more adequate facility to just house this amazing program that our family hasn't been able to stop talking about ever since Hatcher began last year in kindergarten. And we're very excited, and I just want to leave my hope with you guys, and thank you so much.
Thank you for your testimony. That concludes our first hour of public testimony. We'll take a 10-minute recess. Thank you. those back to order. And we've concluded our first hour of public testimony. Thank you for everyone who took time out to attend. We'll have an additional opportunity toward the end of our agenda. We'll move forward with our consent agenda right now. I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. Well, before we do that, I'm going to ask if any board member wishes to pull an item from the consent agenda for discussion. Hearing none, I'd like a motion to approve the consent agenda as listed.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the consent agenda as listed.
Second.
Presented, rather.
Made by Member Bellamy, seconded by Member Wilson. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, then we'll, Ms. Sullivan, can you please call the roll?
Student Representative Tack,
Yes.
Member Bellamy, Member Lessons,
Yes.
Member Higgins,
Oh, yes.
Member Donnelly,
Yes.
Member Wilson,
Yes.
President Holloman,
Yes.
not yet. Chair Jacobs.
Yes. The consent agenda is approved by a vote to 7-0. Thank you. We will move on to our action item, or F1. We have a student hearing. Is there a motion to approve?
I move to approve the recommended expulsion of student associated with ASD incident number 143204 as discussed in our executive session.
A second.
Motion made by Member Wilson, seconded by Member Bellamy. Is there any discussion? Hearing seeing none, Ms. Sullivan, can you please call the roll?
Member Donnelly,
Yes.
Member Lessons,
Yes.
Member Wilson,
Yes.
Member Higgins, Member Bellamy, Member Jacobs,
Yes.
President Holloman,
Yes.
Action item F1 is approved by a vote of 7-0. We are now on our non-action items listed under G. Is there a board member who wishes to discuss a non-action item this evening? Hearing seeing none, we'll move on to continued public comments on non-agenda and non-action items list. Our next speaker is, next two speakers are Colin Strickland and Jean Kekut. Welcome. You have 3 minutes. Please state your name for the record and begin when you're ready.
Guten Abend, meine Damen und Herren. Ich heiße Colin Strickland. I'm a proud parent of a second grader at Rilke Schule. You've heard a lot of testimony today about reasons why moving to Lakewood would make sense for our school, but what I want to testify about is just what a special community Rilke is and how it dovetails with ASD's stated goals and policies. I mean, it really creates global citizens. I came to Alaska. I was stationed on J-Bear, and my wife and I decided to stay and raise our family here, in large part because of Rilke and the community that it fosters. It's an incredibly diverse community. I was pleasantly surprised by that. Just in diverse in all ways, socioeconomically, racially, religiously. You know, we had a conception that it was going to be a bunch of little blonde white kids, and it's not that. It reflects the entire community that Anchorage has, and moving to Lakewood would continue to support that diversity, being in a neighborhood school setting. Right now, it's, I mean, most of you have probably seen where Rilke is, but it's in a really industrial area. It doesn't facilitate any interaction with the community, and it really is the community of the school that is what makes Rilke special. My wife volunteers, even though she's a full-time professional with the Cub Scout troop. We have parents that come in and do jobs that most other ASD schools have employees to do because of our budget constraints with the rent that we pay. We've got folks that come in and volunteer their time to sweep floors, to you know, act as parent volunteers in the classroom. One of the things that personally impacts my family is my son is on an IEP for a speech language pathology issue, and they've got the kids at Rilke in our current facility doing those one-on-one or small group meetings just in hallways or in closets. Things that a move to Lakewood would really make a difference, having dedicated space for those kids. And also, becoming bilingual, it's not something that's in a vacuum. I mean, this is something that has real effects in the community. I've taken up learning German alongside my son, and I can tell you that I've built a client base of German-speaking people here in Anchorage as an attorney. I mean, people know that I'm an attorney that can speak German, and our son, we hope that he continues with his German through high school and college, and then comes back and contributes to Alaska. With such an out-migration of people in Alaska right now, we really should be investing in programs and schools that are going to foster these kind of skills that are going to help in college, but most importantly, bring these ASD graduates back to the community. And we have such an influential German-speaking community here. Having these kids that grew up in this program and having them stay here in Anchorage is going to benefit everybody. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Our next two speakers are Elaine Squire and Brandon Strzok. Welcome. Please state your name for the record. You have 3 minutes, and you can begin when you're ready.
All right. Hello and good evening, board members. My name is Elaine Squire, and I'm currently a special education paraprofessional at Rilke Schule, as well as a parent of a 4th and 6th grader there. Thank you for your leadership and allowing me to speak here today. I'm speaking tonight on behalf of Rilke Schule as both a staff member and a parent of this community. We are a wonderful school full of bright students of the district, and I look forward to seeing them thrive. There is currently a high demand for education through charter schools, and ours is no exception. Currently, we are occupying a building that is having difficulty accommodating our needs, with struggling and increasingly unreliable HVAC and a lack of space. Rilke Schule is the largest in-person charter program in the district, with a population of about 484 students. It is crucial that we have the staffing to support them, and our current budget is heavily constrained by the cost of the facility we are currently occupying. If we were to continue this course, we'll be forced to cut staffing and programs, which would cripple us and our ability to sufficiently meet the educational needs of the students of this district. I believe being able to move into a repurposed ASD building as part of this right-sizing initiative will help us accommodate our student population, as well as continue to grow and provide our excellent educational standards to other amazing children. I am a special education paraprofessional at Rilke Schule, and I have the perspective of assisting the students who have need for IEPs to better achieve their learning goals. Because of the unique circumstances of teaching in 2 languages, it creates the need for flexible staffing in our department. In our current budget crisis, I foresee an increased difficulty meeting the minutes we are required to give each student, causing them to be unable to reliably reach their goals. By allowing us to occupy a repurposed building, we'll be able to continue providing strong educational services. I would now like to speak to you as a parent of students at Rilke and a member of this community. My children, as I've mentioned, are in 4th and 6th grade this year. My 6th grade daughter found out that she has a strong aptitude for learning a second language and is excelling as she enters middle school. My 4th grade son is a fast learner and a whiz at mathematics, and a strong emphasis on learning at Rilke has set him on a course with a love for learning. Both of my children have made strong connections at Rilke, and I wish to see them continue to access the incredible future of this school. Thank you for taking the time to listen to our testimonies and to continue to look at the data gained to the Right Sizing Initiative to better help all ASD students, including ASD charter students.
Thank you for your testimony and welcome. You can begin when you're ready. Please state your name for the record. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening, esteemed board members and district leadership. I am Brandon Strzok, principal, parent, and educator at Rilke Schule. Thank you all for the opportunity to speak tonight. I'd like to encourage you all to repurpose Lake Hood Elementary School for Rilke Schule, as it benefits so many different students. I've shared testimony a few times with the board over the last couple of months. Tonight, I would like to speak to 3 different points that were brought up during the work session earlier today: student access, timelines, and funding. Rilke Schule is interested in expanding student access to our dual language German immersion program. Currently, Rilke Schule operates a robust before and after school program for roughly 200 students through our parent organization, RSI, which removes one of the barriers that families face when accessing a charter school. This program provides a safe and educational space for students until parents are able to pick up. If Rilke was relocated to Lake Hood, a kitchen could open up the possibility for a lunch program. Open a preschool is also an interest of mine as we look to expand access to Rilke Shula for our youngest learners. I know transportation has been discussed several times, and I would be interested in collaborating on that plan. However, at this time, I have not had one family approach me to share that they would not be able to attend next year if we were relocated to Lake Hood. Ideally, we want to share Rilke Shula with as many students as possible. We believe in the impact that a dual language immersion program can make on student outcomes. If Rilke Shula is relocated to Lake Hood, it would be an asset to that neighborhood and would be more accessible than ever. I also want to talk about the lottery timeline, as it is an important factor. As Jim Anderson pointed out during the work session today, the lottery opens on February 1st. And while it is open until mid-March, Rilke is holding weekly school tours over January, February, and March. And we're recruiting kindergarten students at school fairs at the end of January and beginning of February. Making a timely decision on repurposing Lake Hood would greatly impact our recruitment of kindergarten students. Lastly, I want to speak about funding. Jim Anderson noticed that Rilke has roughly 1.6 million in rollover savings. Please be mindful that just 13 months ago, Rilke Shula APC approved a budget to spend roughly $600,000 from that account for this school year, fiscal year 25. Additionally, just last month, Rilke Shula APC approved a budget to spend over $700,000 from that fund for next school year, fiscal year 26. At the same time, Rilke Shula has approved cuts to 3.4 FTE and removing the evening custodial position.
Thank you for your testimony. Our next two speakers are Rebecca Colvin and Aaron McLaughlin. Welcome, Rebecca. You have 3 minutes. Please state your name for record and begin when you're ready.
My name is Rebecca Colvin, APC Chair for Rilke Shula German Immersion School. I come before you again to request that Lake Hood Elementary be repurposed to house Rilke Shula. I was very happy to see the administration recommend this very thing in your work session this afternoon. As we've stated many times, the lease on our commercial building expires in August. The rent is no longer affordable due to flat state funding. We do not have time to wait and see if the legislature will increase state funding. One-time funding will not get us out of this urgent need for a permanent facility. We are steadily draining our rollover fund and cutting program resources to maintain the level of education and services our students deserve. We are uniquely positioned to move into Lake Hood for several reasons. Classrooms. Tonight, you have heard many Rilke Shula students and parents and staff speak about square footage of the building. I'm going to speak about classrooms. Due to our immersion model, our program allocates classrooms differently than neighborhood schools. We are operating out of 25 classrooms, which meet our basic instructional needs. Lake Hood has 32 classrooms, which would allow us additional space to hold specialized small group instruction and testing, among other beneficial activities. Facility. The building would require no structural or other modifications. We are move-in ready with no need to remodel. There are benefits to ASD and our future families and staff if we move into Lake Hood. Rilke Shula would take over the operation and maintenance costs for the building, which reduces costs for the district. This would help decrease the large budget shortfall the district is facing. Rilke Shula would finally have a permanent home. In our 17 years of existence, we have moved at least 4 times. Being housed in an ASD building would help to ensure our long-term sustainability. It would provide dependability to families of our location for their many years with the program. For these reasons and more, I implore you to repurpose Lake Hood for Rilke Shula at your February meeting. 484 students, their families, and our staff are waiting on your decision. I also want to end by thanking all the Rilke Schule staff, teachers, parents, students that came tonight in support in the audience and that gave public testimony, and many gave written testimony as well. I thank them.
Thank you for your testimony and welcome. Aaron, you have 3 minutes. Please state your name for the record and begin when you're ready.
Yeah, my name is Aaron McLaughlin. Good evening, folks. Thank you for giving me the time to join in with others and asking the board to consider reassigning the former Lakewood Elementary facility to Rilke Schule. By definition, the ASD right-sizing initiative is one of efficiency and working to respond to pressing needs and changing community dynamics. I can assure you that the facility needs for Rilke are very pressing. Here, Strow, the other staff, teachers, and volunteers run an exceptional program. Students consistently surpass benchmark goals, even though 50% of their instruction time is in English and the other 50% in German. As many of you know from its very beginning, using relocatable buildings in a parking lot, Rilke has provided exemplary education with limited resources. However, at this point, that ability is reaching its breaking point. Current facility lease costs are no longer sustainable, and to make it thus far, Rilke's savings fund has been almost depleted. Continuing on this track will yield an increased class size as well as other cuts. While that is not unique to Rilke, what is unique is that there is a simple fix that benefits both the Anchorage School District as well as Rilke. Again, I would like to ask the board to join others in the ASD administration and strongly consider assigning the Lakewood building to Rilke. This would allow for growing the program even further, lessening the strain on the ASD budget, and provide an excellent neighbor and community member to fill the vacancy left in the West Anchorage neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Our next two speakers are Caitlin Wolf and Elizabeth Robertson. Welcome. Please state your name for the record. You have 3 minutes and can begin when you're ready.
Guten Abend. My name is Elizabeth Robertson. Good evening, board members and Herr Dr. Bryan. I would like to speak to you today. I have been teaching at Rilke Schule since the days we opened. I have been through all of the moves. I have already emailed you about what we've lived with buildings fully furnished with mice and things like that. But through all of this, we have persevered and we have provided an excellent learning opportunity for students. We consistently score higher in English language arts and in mathematics, and surprisingly in science, significantly higher, and it's taught in German. And so with the Latin-based science words, that really floors me that we score that high. In addition to that, we have provided a really strong community with many, many people taking part with our activities, Christkindlmarkt, and we have the St. Martinstag, Fasching, all these great German cultural activities. The other thing that we've had great success with that people haven't spoken to is we have a long-term exchange with partner schools in Fulda and Frankfurt, Germany. So our students as 7th and 8th grade apply for a program and they go and attend a regular German gymnasium. That's their top 40% students. And they go for 2 weeks and they hold their own. In fact, their teachers come to me and say, we don't know how you do this because they speak German that fluently and that well. And so we would love to have a building. We didn't move into the building we have because we thought we'd have 10 years of flat funding and not be able to afford it, but we can't afford it. And so we really do urgently need you to give us Lakewood, repurpose Lakewood for us, because otherwise we're looking at serious cuts. We've already spent a year with no night janitor, where I spend my afternoons after the kids leave sweeping the floors, helping take out garbages, as does my principal and my associate principal. The children help vacuum. We've done a lot with very little. And for us to continue a sustainable program, we need a bigger building with more room, and we need something where we're not paying so much money in rent. It would be the best use of your resources. You're not paying for upkeep on a building. That could be very expensive, and you could let our program grow and continue with this great success. So I really hope that you will help us find a forever home and give us Lakewood for our next occupation, our next place to live. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Our next two speakers are Paul Bercelis and Wendy Moe. Welcome. You have 3 minutes. You can begin when you're ready, and please state your name for the record.
Good evening. Hi, my name is Paul Brusuelas. I am a father of a first grader, Eddie Brusuelas, at Brookeschool. And if you're like me, you've learned a lot about the school. I had no idea that the musical space was in such dire straits, and the kids did a wonderful job of advocating for their school. I want to say, as a father, Rilke School is a place that I never heard of until my wife mentioned it. I have no connections to Germany, but my wife and Eddie's grandfather lived there, as his grandfather was a general in the Air Force and stationed over there. And she went to high school and learned the German language, and then afterwards went back as a service missionary and serving the communities in East and West Germany. It's been a wonderful experience, though, to get to be a part of the community at Rilke and see the students and the culture and the excitement and the strong, unique kind of feeling there. My son is an energetic little first grader, and it's a place where he can express himself and be himself and is supported. And he's been able to, do well in math, express himself in art, explore himself with music, and also participate in the extracurricular activities after school. And as a resident of West Anchorage, I live right across the street from Lakewood Elementary. It's a beautiful community with paved sidewalks and school and public buses for transportation needs, and just a wonderful area. So I just want to say thank you for your service on the board and just for the community and for listening to our advocating for the school. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Our next two speakers are Laura McNown and Eric Voorhees. Welcome. You have 3 minutes. Please say your name for the record and begin when you're ready.
My name is Laura McNown. Ich wünsche allen einen schönen guten Abend. Feeling the German vibe tonight, but I'm still breathing Nunaka Valley air through and through. So I would like to speak with you about the next steps in the process of repurposing Nunaka Valley into a charter and the transition of our students, families, and staff. First of all, I want to inform you that the Northeast Community Council is gathering community input through an online survey on the repurposing of Nunaka Valley Elementary. The questionnaire aims to find out what school and program qualities are important to the community to support you in making the best decision possible to choose the right program for Nunaka. The survey is still ongoing, and final results will be shared with you in the upcoming weeks before the final vote on February 18th. If you are interested in taking a look at the survey, I'm happy to share the link with you via email. Knowing that the data is not final yet, I still want to share with you one program quality that currently stands out with an overwhelming amount of support, and that is priority enrollment for neighborhood students. On a personal note, the priority neighborhood enrollment is an important factor for me as well. I'm a parent of a Nunaka student and a Nunaka Valley resident, and I feel like we've been robbed our walkable neighborhood school, a school that was a big reason for why I wanted to raise my family at the Nunaka Valley neighborhood. To do right by us affected families, I'm hopeful you consider giving neighborhood kids around Nunaka Valley this opportunity. I think there's a lot of positive effects to the neighborhood priority enrollment, such as potentially reduced traffic since students might be walking, also a lot of community buy-in from the neighborhood, which is important. And I guess I would think that there's also a lot more volunteer opportunities. Also, as a teacher at Nunaka, I had a recent conversation with an anxious parent at the school whose kids attend the school with a zone exemption. She made me aware that these kids need to be brought up to your attention specifically. When dividing up students into the two schools, Chester Valley and Russian Jack Park, it's important to give students who are currently in Nunaka with a zone exemption the option to follow their classmates. After all, these students are also part of the Nunaka Valley family. They've been there for many years, and they should have the right to be part of a gentle transition into the two receiving schools, just like all the other kids do. Concerning the transition of moving out of the current building, NUNACA staff is eager to get guidance on the logistics and the time frame of the move as soon as possible. Please keep in mind that the teachers move on into various career paths after the school year, so a one-size-fits-all pack up and go plan may not be applicable. A big concern to me is when should the packing process start, so to not interrupt ongoing instruction at the end of the school year. Why shouldn't we engage the community is a thought. There could be some volunteer.
Thank you for your testimony. Our last speaker tonight is Paul Gers. There's Paul. All right. Welcome. You have 3 minutes. Please state your name for the record and begin when you're ready.
My name is Paul Gers. I don't have any more facts and figures for you guys. I'm just here to let you know that Rilke Shula means the world to us, and we'd greatly appreciate it if you helped us move to a sizable building and help the sustainability of the organization. I'd like my second daughter to have the same opportunities that my first daughter has. And I'd like her to continue to have the same opportunities. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for allowing us to speak.
And thank you for your testimony. That concludes the individuals who have signed up to testify at tonight's meeting. I thank you for everyone for making time to do so. Next on our agenda is item I1, Superintendent Update. Dr. Bryant, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is our first board meeting of the new year. So first off, Happy New Year to everyone here in the room tonight. Just a few things that I'm focused on, one of which would be our legislative session, which gavelled in today. And I've been collaborating with various stakeholder groups statewide to really advance ASD's legislative priorities, which would be the BSA, our transportation funding, and restarting that conversation on bond debt reimbursement. But within parallel, we're doing a couple things. So one that the board is very well aware of, which would be the development of our budget for the upcoming year. And I just want to manage the community's expectations that, as we know, we always go through this cycle of having to prepare a budget based off of known revenues, and we won't know what those revenues may be until sometime between now and July, but most likely much closer to July than now. So that means that when we unveil that initial budget proposal, which I intend to do the first meeting in February as a non-action item, those cuts are going to be very, very deep. When we're talking about a structural deficit of the magnitude of $100 million, there's no way to not impact aspects of our core mission, which is to educate students. So our team has been going line by line to reduce spending in as many non-classroom categories as possible, but I want to be very clear that the nature and magnitude of the structural deficit is going to put us in a very dark place when we see that initial budget. As I shared with the board last week, I've directed the team to put thought into other scenarios too. The legislature has come to the table with funding in past years. Usually it's one time, and very usually we don't know what that amount will be, which makes it very difficult to make decisions around funding recurring costs such as staffs, but we'll give it a go for various scenarios so that the board can understand what things could look like going into the next fiscal year. So I just wanted to put that out there. The budget is coming. We're getting closer to February. It will be a very dark picture, and I certainly hope that there is a pleasant surprise coming from Juneau, but that remains to be seen. And then, lastly, I just want to address one of the elephants in the room, which would be we had a federal administration change yesterday. And I know we're getting emails, and we'll probably hear from some community members about how changes specifically at the executive order level could impact operations within ASD. And the answer is I don't have an update to share tonight, and because I need to do my due diligence to make sure that ASD complies with local, state, and federal law, as well as relevant case laws that impact a number of things things that we do as an organization. So thank you for your patience as I do my due diligence to ensure that ASD is committed to making sure that our schools are vibrant and safe places to be for all students, because that is our mission at the end of the day. So again, thank you for your patience. I will not have an update tonight. That concludes my remarks.
Thank you, Dr. Bryan. Other questions for the superintendent before we move on? Member Donnelly.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dr. Bryan, I brought this up before. When the board connects, there's some sort of default there that identifies reports and sections that should be clearly public information as private. And I would really like to see that practice discontinued, because when I get a memorandum and it's labeled private, I try to follow the board's rules about confidentiality, but it implies something that's not legal even. I mean, those are open records. Unless there's a specific reason for them to be private, it shouldn't be identified as private on the board connects.
Thank you, Member Donnelly. I've attempted to explain this in the past, but I think we're essentially talking about a technological feature of board docs. You're correct that anything of the nature that we're discussing is a public record. So we are in compliance with the Open Records Act as it relates to Alaska. We can talk more about norms and protocols and expectations, perhaps at our Saturday retreat. I think would be prudent.
I wouldn't want to, I mean, it's an important issue to separate the things that are confidential that the board members shouldn't discuss from the things that are public. And I think it's very problematic that these things are labeled private. I also wanted to follow up on the question I brought up about a month ago about Algebra 2 classes not having textbooks. You were going to look into that, and I just wondered what you identified, because I'm very concerned about the classrooms continuing not to have textbooks.
Yeah, thank you, Member Donnelly. I believe when this was brought up in December, we took urgent action. I believe the next day we deployed consumable Algebra 2 materials to the schools. I'd like to ask a member of the team to follow up with you if there's a specific instance of that not being made. But to my understanding, that has been resolved. So we'll talk to you about that offline either today or tomorrow.
Are there other questions for the superintendent before we move on? Hearing and seeing none, we'll move on to school board comments. We will start with, on my left, with Member Higgins. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I want to start by expressing my appreciation for how many people turned out and the comments that were made in regards to schools being, repurposed and the charter schools, because what I heard, which wasn't as strong in the work session, was the impact on the kids. I mean, not having a counselor, not having other events like that, not having things in the school, not focused on the reserves, not focused on the cost of the school, but how that impacts directly the children, because that's really what we're all about. And it really filled in a gap for me with some of those comments. And I always enjoy when we've got lots of kids testifying as well. They got to make sure they include that in their resume. It goes a long way, particularly when they're trying to go to colleges. When you have lots of community activities, it helps. But I really do appreciate the comments. I think they were addressing the impact in the classroom, in the school, and how that might impact outcomes for kids. And that's really what our decision is going to have to be focused on. It's going to be an interesting process that we want to do, but I am so glad that the board itself views that all kids, regardless whether it's in a regular school, an optional programs, or a charter school, is our responsibility. Safety for those kids in buildings is important. Giving them the access to the same types of facilities. That's something the board, I feel like, really cares for, and I know I care for it passionately. So that's important. So I appreciate that, and I also will comment and appreciate we've got a lot of unknowns that's going to come on from the federal level. I'm glad that the superintendent raised that, because there's a lot of comments and questions going on. We just have to wait and see what happens before we react to it. But it is going to be a challenging time for us between the state funding the federal programs and support and what they're trying to accomplish. So it's definitely going to be an opportunity time on the board and within the district. And just we're going to play it the best we can, and feedback from the public is always appreciated.
Thank you, Member Higgins. Member Donnelly, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. I brought this up about a year ago, but I wanted to talk about it a little bit again. You know, this board has adopted priorities, and I think they're good priorities. We've really tried to, and our three top priorities, of course, are English, language arts, mathematics, and life preparedness. And I agree with that. And it's hard to get everything done, and you have to have priorities. And I think those are the right three priorities for this board. But one of my biggest regrets of the last 7 years is our inability to also prioritize the teaching of civics and government. And it's so repetitive over the last year to hear people talking about protecting our democracy, referring to the United States as a democracy. And it really happened a lot this week with the events in Washington, D.C. And it just really amazes me that people who should know better are forgetting that this nation is not a democracy. It's a constitutional republic. And in a republic, the people typically do not make most of the decisions. Rather, they elect the people who make the decisions. And history is very convincing that pure democracies fail. Once the majority figures they can get whatever they want, they take things away from minorities. And in this country, that's not possible because we have constitutional protections in our republic. So minority rights are protected in our constitutional republic where they're not protected in a pure democracy. And I think that's really important. And so I just want to, encourage the members of the public and all our officials to remember that this is not a democracy for very good reasons. And I stand with our founders that considering the alternatives, a constitutional republic that protects the rights of minorities and individuals is the best form of government. And what can devolve into mob rule of a pure democracy is not the best in the best interest of this nation. I wanted also to mention that back in 2023, I submitted a memo to the board to adopt a new board policy, something the board's never voted on, but does currently appear in guidelines that were adopted by the administration several years ago regarding parental notification of gender and name changes by students. And at that time, I was advised that by the board and the administration wanted to wait until pending Biden administration guidelines were published. And those Biden White House administration guidelines were put out about a year ago, and they were blocked here in Alaska by court order. And now a few weeks ago, they were completely overturned by federal courts nationwide. So they're gone, they're dead. And so I would really, really appreciate support of this board to consider the resolution, the memorandum that I submitted back in 2023 that would overrule our existing administrative guidelines that have never been voted on by this board, to make it clear that notification of parents is the presumption, is the default position the administration is going to take on all issues, including the ones that may not appear that way in these administrative guidelines. I know it takes 2 votes or a co-sponsor to get things before the board. I've been waiting on this for more than a year. And I really think it's a serious enough question of parental rights that it be addressed in a board policy and not be left to a mere administrative guideline. The board adopts policy. The administration adopts administrative regulations based on that policy. The existing controls in this district are neither one of those over this issue of parental rights. They're down even below an administrative regulation, but called an administrative guideline. This is a serious enough question. I think parental rights deserves a vote of this board of what should be the correct policy for this district when it comes to notifying parents of these very significant matters. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Donnelly. We'll go to my right, Member Wilson.
I spent some time at Wendler. They had a JA in a day, junior achievement. It was amazing. They had a in some cases 2 volunteers from the community who went into a classroom to teach the junior achievement curriculum, financial literacy curriculum, taking over the entire school, which was amazing. The volunteers came from different businesses from the community, and just being able to provide enough volunteers from our community businesses to take over an entire school. Again, some of them had 2 volunteers in the classroom, was amazing. The kids really seemed to enjoy it. I popped into a couple of classrooms. The volunteers really enjoyed it. I heard from a few of them as they were leaving saying, I absolutely greatly appreciate all of the work that our teachers do every day to educate our kids. It's a tremendous amount of work. So it was a great experience, both for the students to hear from our community leaders and business leaders, and our business leaders to be in the schools and step into a teacher's role for a day. So thank you to those volunteers. Thank you to Junior Achievement for coordinating JA in a day for that school and the many other schools that they coordinate those events for. Also wanted to share that the Alternative Schools Expo is on Saturday, February 8th. And so you can look on the ASD website for details about that. And there was one thing that Dr. Bryan, if you would just take a minute and share about the U.S. Secretary of Education, Miguel Cardona, going to visit Service High. I know you didn't mention that, but I would love for you to talk a little bit about that.
Sure, Mr. Chair, do you permit me to address? So yeah, I would love to talk about it. So the irony is that he chose to come to Alaska on our ice day, as we know, so that threw a wrench into the plans. But he was very excited to see an ASD school, and I'm very thankful to Principal Azam and the service team who live pretty close to the school, and they were able to safely get to the school, as well as a few students and family members, to greet the secretary. And he was just really just loving that we offer programs like the Service Biomedical program, which is a CTE program of study that has made such a difference in the lives of our students, as well as the other great programs at Service. I was actually iced in, to be frank with you. So my entire neighborhood road was covered in ice, so I couldn't get to Service myself, but the secretary was gracious enough to offer me a few minutes of his time just to debrief on his visit, and he was just very thankful. It was his first visit to Alaska, and we made a fantastic impression.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member Wilson. Member Lessons, the floor is yours.
I wanted to share with the board that I took the liberty of canceling the Finance Committee meeting, which has been scheduled for the 30th. And that's to allow our staff just more time to prepare for the meeting on the 4th. I don't know that there's anything that's yet shareable about the budget, and it just seemed like a better use of their time to focus on the bigger task at hand, which is getting documents prepared in time to be posted publicly, I assume sometime Saturday-ish, about 72 hours before. Anyways, I wanted to put that out there. I feel like I've brought this up before. I would request that the board president and administration consider adding additional meetings between February 4th and February 18th in order for our board to receive the volume of testimony that I expect we will receive about the budget, given the scale of the very deep cuts, the very dark picture that the words that you just chose. I think we're going to have hours and hours of testimony. I really valued the additional listening session we ended up with last February. So I don't know whether that looks like another regularly scheduled Tuesday meeting, Saturday options. So I guess my request is let's see if we can find some more time and options for the public to chime in where the board can just receive public testimony. I also wanted to share with the board that I took the liberty of relaying memorandum 079, which received a unanimous 7-0 vote at our last meeting. This is regarding the joint resolution, along with the assembly side of things, AR 2025-16, with the chairs of both the House and Senate education committees. So they have those documents on hand, and I received responses from those chairs indicating they will be including our joint resolutions into any future bill packets regarding the BSA. I also took the liberty of just watching the recording of the assembly talking about the joint resolution, and it passed 11-0 with one assembly member unavailable at the time of the vote, and assembly members spoke very highly of it, the sentiment behind it, and their desire to have a strong public school system. So I really appreciate that collaboration and the willingness of the chairs of the House and Senate education committees to sort of receive that information. And I will say that I've checked akledge.gov, and it looks like those committee meetings are going to be held Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, 8 a.m. on the House side and 3:30 p.m. on the Senate side. So just something to pencil into calendars and keep abreast of what will be happening in Juneau. That's all for now. Thank you.
Member Lessons, Member Bellamy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of reminders, really, just so that people know that if you can live stream our meetings, but there's also a recap that our communications department puts out, an internal recap for staff to just kind of track our meetings, so you can see everything we talked about, everything we worked on in our work sessions. And then if you go to to the website under school board, you can find the recap there as well. I find that extremely helpful, especially with our community councils and people who want to know almost verbatim what happened at the meeting, but they didn't have time to attend. So we have expanded that opportunity. The Balancing Act is still online. I hear what Member Lessons is saying about the making more time, but we've also given people more opportunities to engage in the budget process. So using that tool, and maybe somebody out there can come up with a magical way to balance this budget, but it's going to be tough. And so we do want to hear the input, but people can use that tool to give us some feedback. You can write to the board, you can testify before the board, and really you can write us at any time, or even phone calls. I did want to just mention the upcoming Betty Davis Healthy Families Community Summit. That event will take place on Saturday, the 8th of February at East High School. We had the opportunity to meet with the Student Advisory Board last week. Was it last week? Well, yeah, last week. It was last week, and we just basically shared some volunteer opportunities. There's a concert that is a family-focused concert by an outstanding motivational speaker, or actually entertainer. So that information is also on our website because the district is a partner. And I think those are all and I think our retreat is this weekend. Mr. Chair, I might have to be remote for that, but I will be in attendance. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Bellamy. We'll move on to President Holloman, who's online. The floor is yours.
No real comments from me. I just can't wait to get back to Anchorage where it's warm and sunny.
Thank you, Member Holloman. For my comments, I just want to echo appreciation for those who took time to come out and testify, and I'm looking forward to our retreat on Saturday. With that said, that concludes board member comments. Absent any other business to attend to, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Made and seconded, seeing no opposition, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.